Thanks, Ben.
Yep.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I fixed a typo. Gary found they instead of the, so I fixed that.
On the minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. So, are there any other additions or corrections to the minutes?
Not really. I don't know if you want to get technical at the very last one, where it says Gary Burschank chairman, shouldn't that be vice chair? Technically.
Co-chair or whatever,
Yeah.
because he was acting
Yeah.
as co-chair.
I mean, it don't bother me. It's okay with
He
me.
signed as chairman that day, so I can
Yeah.
tweak it.
Nope.
Doesn't
I
matter.
don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. Works. He was chairman that day.
Motion to approve the minutes then.
Second.
Tracy made the motion to approve. Gary seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And
Adam, while you're on the phone, do you want us, I didn't put a time to limit, or on your review, but I did email him the, whatever, how many page
oh
report
my
it
God,
was,
it
so.
was 90 and 95.
They have
yeah.
the signature page anyway with them.
Yeah, those are the same thing we did last meeting I was at. Is the environmental review paperwork is complete. It just needs approval signature to be submitted to the state.
Okay. Do you gentlemen have any questions? You got the emails?
Yep.
The lengthy email?
Yep. I didn't read them all, to be truthful, but
Well, it's a
majority of
scan.
them. Yep.
Yeah,
That's
Yep.
why I only printed the signature page.
good material to put you to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make a motion to sign the agreement.
Second.
A motion made by Tracy to approve the WMA environmental reviews for MC-INV-007 and 009. That was for both of them, correct?
Yep.
And Gary seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good.
And that should be everything that I have. I'll be there next week with a contract recommendation. We have a bid opening on Friday this week for two really big projects that I talked about last time, and that'll be in the parking lot out here at the service center.
The opening?
What are
Yeah, since the buildings are closed to the public, we're doing the opening in the parking lot
Okay.
at 10:30 if you want to be there.
What
No
day-
need to be, but
Yeah, what day is that?
Friday.
This Friday?
Yep.
Okay. Got it. I might start on some of that stuff for sheriff this week, maybe.
What are they gonna do about the area west of the highway going south there? It's all growing up into weeds. Are they gonna plant that to something, or what are they gonna do?
Oh, the city of Benton, you mean? That spot? Yeah, it's
Well,
not,
originally that was going to be a wetland project, but that got postponed indefinitely as the city doesn't have the acquisition complete of the Braille School, which is where a lot of the spoil material was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically I'm just in a waiting pattern to hear until I hear different from them. But they have to maintain that.
Okay.
And they've been doing that on their own.
Okay.
So I'm imagining they'll probably mow it or something. They mowed it a few times last year.
Yeah.
do you have funding still available for that?
Maybe. Been working with the Department of Agriculture. It sounds like they would be interested in taking that project over as far as the financial standpoint, but they haven't gotten a definite answer on that yet. We can't really do anything until the city gets their acquisition process done. So until I hear word on that, it's really not worth the time to spend any more money on it, at least for my project.
Okay, very good. So, Gary, I guess your question probably needs to be directed towards the city of Benton.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Thanks.
Thank you, Adam.
Yep, thank you.
Well, I have 1 minute. Do we have time to approve that cigarette permit for Kim's Mini Mart?
Voice for. Go ahead, Gary.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Gary made the motion to approve the cigarette permit for Kim's Mini Mart. Tracy seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Very good. This is just a check. No, both these signed? No. This has your signature.
Oh, that's mine, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't want to sign yours.
But remember, this one changed, but we don't need to do that.
Very good. Well, good morning, Mark. Good morning, Kyle.
Good morning.
How's everyone today? Doing well. Good. Very good. Well, you've got the floor, gentlemen.
Ready?
Yep.
You have a request for approval of final plat and resolution for Baldus First Edition. If you remember last week, we adopted a resolution you approved. You varied several provisions of the subdivision ordinance. Kyle has the paperwork done. Haley has a resolution there for you. The lot fee's been paid, so everything's in order for approval of that, if you're willing to do that this morning. Anything you need to say?
Nope, other than we're just kind of returning what we talked about last week. We're just splitting off the parcel to allow the financing to go through on the sale of the property. One buyer is buying both parcels. But the underwriter for the finance company wants separation from the house to the commercial, the mud hut, dog grooming facility. So pretty straightforward. Hopefully we followed everything that you guys wanted last week, and we'll keep the ball rolling.
I met the buyer this week of the property, so yeah, very nice. They're very excited.
Good.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, do we have a motion to approve that final plat
So moved.
It's by resolution too.
by resolution?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So Gary made the motion and Tracy seconded to make that approval.
You're saying aye.
Seaman, aye.
And Firmer, aye.
Do you have a vendor original line that you want me to sign on? And then I'll give you all these resolutions.
You want the one that's getting recorded, or?
Yeah, because she likes me to write on the top of that one.
Okay.
And then you just, the other resolutions from last week I'll need to sign too.
Okay.
Do you want a copy for yourself too?
Yes, please.
Kyle did pay the fee too, so
Okay.
there's that.
Currently, they take pesos downstairs.
Oh, yeah? So then I will give you, do you want the auditor certificate and all that too, so you can.
Everything you can give me, and I can take it to the attorney.
Yep, so they got the resolutions, and I gave you the one from last week, so they're gonna officially sign that one.
Great.
Thank you. And Randy?
Alright, these are good to Kyle. You should have, yeah, one more. He's got the variance one over there. So, we should be good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll get out of your hair and have a great day.
Thanks a
you.
lot.
Thanks again, everybody.
Yeah,
Take care.
Stay healthy.
it's you
You
too.
There was some paperwork playing here from Ben Bonner. Was that from last week or the week before?
Would have been probably before he
Okay.
handed out some stuff.
Okay.
I don't know if he's calling me or coming in today.
Yeah, I don't know. Thank you. Don't have it. Well, I was looking for it, but that's fine. Well, we have 5 minutes. Do we want to do this authorization to sign for part-time
No,
insurance?
no, Judy's calling in for all that stuff.
Oh, she
Yeah.
is?
Yeah, you gotta wait for her.
I didn't see it on there.
10 o'clock.
10:15.
10:15, okay, now I see it. All right, thank you.
Are they calling in, Mark? Do you know? Mark, are they calling in? Do you know?
Dusty will be on,
Okay.
if he's not already.
I haven't seen it yet.
We talked about this a while back. With Burkhart's.
Yeah, they got the
Demands.
variance.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. It's so quiet.
Isn't it though? Mark, will you be back in for the 11 o'clock discussion?
I won't be able to, I have a final inspection I have to do down by Shellsburg this morning.
Okay.
I'll probably ask Barb to come up. I won't be able to make it again,
Okay, that's fine.
difficult,
Have to be in two places at once.
yeah.
Crazy times.
If I may ask, has there been any changes as far as the Board of Health, that County Board of Health?
Board of Health hasn't met, going to be this week, Thursday.
But it's not, nobody meets in person, it's all virtual.
Well, that's fine. I get that it's via
Do
Zoom
you know
or
what time
whatever.
that is?
7 o'clock.
So maybe if you think it's necessary after that, if we need to meet on Friday, you come in Thursday and let me know. I can post another agenda for Friday.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, if, depending on what goes on today.
Yeah, I'm not sure even what Katie has planned totally for it, but, yeah, I'm sure there'll be some discussion.
Sure there will be.
They always meet at 7 usually.
They decided to meet every month, May, June, July, for a while.
Sure. Makes sense. I know these Zoom meetings are pretty handy, especially if you have some distances that you have to travel for meetings. Sure saves a lot of time.
Well, I gotta be in the car moving before 6:30 to be up here by 7.
Oh, of course, yeah.
You know, I can't. If I wait till 6:30, it ain't gonna work.
It's too tight. Well, it is 9:15, Mark.
Okay. Justin, are you there on the line?
I don't see anybody else on.
No?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead. We have an application that I've given you from Dustin and Nicole Druschel. They currently live at 406 S Avenue Drive in Benton. Dustin and Nicole have purchased 5.71 acre tract of land from Yvonne Burkhardt. It's in the southwest quarter, section 118510, or Taylor Township. It's going to be right here, just below 58th Street, just to the west of 26th Avenue Drive. It's about right there in the very corner of the southwest quarter of the section there. The Druschels would like to build a new home on this parcel, and that's why they've given you a land use application. If you recall this parcel here, earlier this year, we did look at it from the standpoint of it was being split out. You first gave it a variance to the subdivision ordinance because they were parceling the 5 acres. If you look at the aerial that I gave to you, that was the one that we looked at before. All facets of the subdivision ordinance were complied with. After that, they did prepare a final plat, and this is going to be the culmination of the process, basically, if indeed you do approve of this land use application. The land that's under review, as you can see by the photos that I've given you. First of all, the photo here obviously showing that there's an existing driveway. Randy tells us that that meets all of the policy requirements and there's no issue whatsoever. The second photo is just showing you what the land looks like. It obviously is land that is not in production, hasn't been. I looked back on the aerials years and years ago. There's never been any production on this site as far as farming activity. The soils where the site is proposed here is a loamy fine sand. It's characteristic of what we see in that entire area. CSR, if indeed it was being farmed, it's a 37. So that's basically a non-issue. The site here will need a new well and septic system. I've looked at it. That should not be any issue whatsoever. The soils there are light. They probably will be very well receptive of water. The only thing that I see there is just maintaining the separation distances because there is a neighbor to the west, and that neighbor's well is along the fence line or near the fence line, the west fence of this particular parcel. And I have mentioned to Dusty about that, and we just need to maintain a 100-foot separation distance there, and so that should not be any issue. The surrounding land uses out here, you guys have been along that road, you pretty much know that it's very populated with rural residences. There's housing developments there, and there are acreages all along the road right in this particular area there. So the surrounding land use is primarily rural residences. There is some pasture land to the north on the Burkhardt property. We notified 6 adjacent property owners of this hearing today, placed legal notices in all 3 official newspapers of the county as required, and we did not receive any comments prior to today's hearing. In respect to the ordinance and the comprehensive plan, this is a very favorable application. There's no productive land being taken out of production. The use is very compatible with the overall land use pattern of the area, and it's a very nice building site to build on. And Dustin and Nicole have complied with our requirements as far as the application, and I see no problems with it. Do you have any questions?
Just a comment, I'm surprised this hasn't happened before now, because it is an ideal building
It's
spot.
a beautiful building.
Mhm.
And Dustin's already been hard at work on cleaning it up, so to speak. I mean, the trees, he's gone, there's a multitude of trees that he's been trimming, and instead of being bushes, they're now trees, and he's done a really good job with it.
Any questions, gentlemen?
I guess on the form itself, where you got the owner's signature, wouldn't that be the Gooseless? 'Cause don't they own the 5 acres now?
I'm sorry, they were in the process of purchasing, and I believe it was subject to the land use.
Okay,
Yeah, it must
Okay.
maybe him.
Good morning,
Is that Dustin?
Dustin?
Yeah,
Okay. We
There you
just, we're checking who called in.
yep, that's me.
So that explains why
Okay.
Yvonne's name's on there instead of
Okay.
the Druschel
Yes,
name.
I apologize, I misstated that. It is still owned by Yvonne Burkhardt.
oh, she still owns,
I believe so. Dustin, is that correct? You're buying this from Yvonne, but she is still technically the owner at this point?
Correct, yes.
Yes, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Pending the outcome of the land use hearing.
Yes, pending the outcome of today's hearing.
okay,
Very good.
understood. Well, I make a motion, to let them go.
Second.
All right, Tracy made the motion to approve the land use change for Dustin and Nicole Druschel, and Gary seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Very good.
Congratulations.
Attaboy, Dustin.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dustin.
He'll do a nice job. Putting the house up, et cetera. So, yep.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm off. Thank you,
All
guys.
right,
Yeah.
thank you, Mark. Appreciate all your work you do. Yes. It's good to see these people.
Been getting a lot of outdoor work. Social distancing isn't that difficult, really, when
When you're outside.
it's not that bad.
And the weather's cooperating. Right?
Except when I'm drilling a hole that's 6-inch diameter, everybody wants to see what's down below, then we got all these heads. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, Mark.
Well, while we're waiting, are there any reports?
I've been going around planting signs. We got a lot of work to do on the roads. There's holes in the roads,
The gravel roads you're referring to?
blacktop.
Well, the county blacktop roads. Yeah, well, it's that time of year.
Yeah, there's like this, county home road going out here, there's holes in that road.
I was on 380 yesterday and changed from one lane to the other, and right down the middle, right between the two lanes, it's just a small ditch. You know, it's all broke up in between where the concrete meets. So it happens. Winter is tough on everything.
Yeah,
So
we got a bunch of work to do though in the county. A lot of painting needs to be done too.
with the roads. Mhm.
Yeah.
Any other reports?
Last night I had,
Landfill.
what's that?
Do you have a landfill meeting?
That's Thursday.
He called me yesterday for something.
Yeah, I know. EMS meeting across the road last night. He's talking about different grants that he's gonna get to help offset the, what do they call it? PPE,
Mm-hmm.
to help set that off.
But at this point, he doesn't want to apply for that FEMA stuff, correct? Did he say anything more on that?
Yeah, nothing about FEMA.
I didn't think so.
No.
He's kind of keeping me informed too. So.
Yeah. What else? Oh, they talked, the biggest discussion was about the sirens again. So I guess what we come up with the conclusion, we did not have a very good turnout last night. There was only 7 of us there. So it's the worst turnout I've ever been to since I've been elected. So anyway, we got 4 options that we come up with, and we're gonna send that out to the other departments, as fire departments, what they think, and pick an option. Which way do you think? You know?
Mhm.
And then that's supposed to be, he's gonna email that out today. They want the answer by the end of the month. So next month when we have our meeting, that's when they can, we'll see what everybody's picked, and then they will come and present it to us.
All right. Makes sense.
So I guess that's about it. The pager system, they're in the works to get new pagers for all the fire departments and all this again. That's 911's paying for that. Ain't costing the county tax dollar anything. Now, they're in the works right now, going to this new, not going to yet, getting bids, getting everything lined up for the new radios for everybody. Which, you know, they told us $8 to $10 million.
Right.
Well, it's gonna be less than that, but they don't know how much less.
Okay.
So,
Well, it depends if they can use their towers or what.
yeah, there's a tower right north of Rogers Park out there. And I can't remember what broadband they said that owns it. It ain't even being used, and the company don't want it no more. So they're thinking about
acquiring that.
purchase, yes, and then don't use the one at Mount Auburn. There's a tower there on the outside of Mount Auburn or something there. But they said wherever this tower is on top of the hill, north of Rogers Park, they said you can stand at the base and you can see Mount Auburn and you can see Urbana from on top of that hill.
Nice.
So,
All right.
that was about it on that. Thursday I went with the landfill manager and the chairman. We went up and looked at trucks at Fairbanks, down in Fairbanks for the water trucks and all that. Well, now we're kind of thinking that Myron's got a truck up here that's got 300 some thousand miles on it. They're not using it no more. They want to take it to the auction block. Here we go. We got all the records, know everything about the truck.
Mm-hmm.
So
And you're probably not going to put that many miles on
I don't
per
think we
year.
put 3,000 miles on it a year.
Yeah, exactly.
I said it'll hurt it more by sitting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be the big decision whether to spend a few thousand here with the county and know everything about it, or buy one that's nobody knows really anything about it. And it's
You were looking at a used one? Up
yeah,
there? Okay.
yeah, 50. Well, they want 60,000 for it.
Whoa. How old a truck is it?
07. 157,000 miles on it. So that ain't, for miles, it's nothing.
They're a straight truck,
Yeah.
basically. Mhm.
Well, it's a semi is what it is. It's got a fifth wheel on it, but they're gonna
Oh,
chop the frame and
they'll lengthen it.
Yep.
Oh,
You've seen the tank down there, ain't you?
by the time you get that up, that's gonna, that costs quite a bit of money. Start chopping frames.
Mm-hmm.
Probably wouldn't have to do that with the county truck.
They're thinking not. So I
Yeah.
said I was supposed to stop up there, and I didn't think of it till I was coming up here this morning. That I brought the wrong vehicle. I commandeered my wife's. And now there's no tape measure in it. I was going to stop. And I thought, well, somebody should have a tape measure there.
I'll
at the
bet
shop.
they could find one.
Yeah, I can measure the frame and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, as Gary says, you start cutting, you know, a frame and welding it, and it's very doable. We've done it. But then you gotta extend the drive shafts and carrier bearings, etc.
Correct.
So, yeah. And for an 07?
That one's an 07, and I don't know what the county says.
Correct. No, I understand.
Yeah, you got brake lines, of course, it's not a big deal, but
Yeah, that's not that big thing.
there's more to it than just
Mm-hmm.
welding the frame.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay.
So that's what's going on with that, because I said originally, I said like the county one, put the tank on it, and I says, who cares if the tank's sticking out 2 foot further than the frame? I says, for weight wise, you just don't fill the tank up with full. Well, like the manager says,
Well, on the tail of the frame, you know, you should be able to add
yeah, you could, yeah,
some
I guess,
framework
yeah.
for support. You know, that's basically all you're doing. So, yeah.
But like he says, though, like, you gotta have a heavier axle, because, you know, I mean, we're
Mhm.
right at the limit as big as this tank is. You don't haul a half a load, nobody does.
No.
You know that.
Yeah,
If you
I
were
do.
gonna fill it up, you're
Yeah.
gonna fill it up.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it is 9:30. We've got a budget amendment hearing.
So we just open the public hearing and we can go over what we changed.
Okay, well, it is, you need a motion to open that public
Nope,
hearing?
you just open it like a ladies'
Okay,
hearing.
well, here we go. The public hearing is now open.
And it does not look like any of them have called in.
Okay.
Um,
As far as department heads.
right, so I do have a resolution prepared, what I published in the newspaper.
Mhm.
We increased revenue and expenditures for conservation for the 57,138. Her original had requested out of the 2 different ones, the land acquisition and local option, but then she come back and said that the grants will not be reviewed until late June, therefore she did not need the land acquisition amendment, so.
Okay. All right.
Then I increased Myron's roads and transportation by 900,000. Government services to residents by 10,000, which is mainly for election purposes right now, just because I don't know where things were at. And then the physical health and social services by 10 grand.
Okay.
That's service area 1, so that would include the medical examiner, sheriff, any of those if I need to move
Right.
around funding. So, and that, if you have no comments, then you can close that and approve it by resolution. It matches what I published. in the newspaper.
Yep. This is a lot easier to read.
Yep, I just have to do it by resolution, so.
Gentlemen, if you'd like to look this over. And you can get a copy of that if you'd like.
And then once that's approved, I'll go in and tweak the spending authority.
And if you gentlemen don't have any comments, and there aren't any from the public, then we can close the public hearing. Okay? Any comments, Gary? Otherwise, we'll close the public hearing.
Close it.
Okay? All said and done. And then this is by resolution, so we'll need a motion to approve the amendment, budget
I can sign that one, yep.
amendment for fiscal year 20. And a second.
Motion to approve the amendment for year 20. Were you saying a dollar amount too?
No, it's
No.
only by that resolution and I'll put that in there.
How much did we, increase the, no,
It's by service area on that.
county environment and education's 57,000, that's going out to.
That's conservation.
Right,
She got that
conservation.
grant, so I have it passed through in and out.
Second.
And this is by resolution, so Tracy made the motion, Gary seconded, and you could have signed this.
Your tank aye.
Seaman, aye.
And Primer, aye.
That's getting into our reserve, correct, Haley?
Well, I don't know, Myron's is his own, he has funding, so I don't have to transfer any of his. But yeah, it would if I need to go, like some of them is just for a cushion in case, because it's getting close. Because we still have about 6 weeks left, so.
Such as the sheriff's office one.
I think he's fine because like his vehicles that we approved,
Right.
they're not even building them right now, so. We're already gonna have to amend next year's because he had spending authority for those vehicles this year. So, once we got down and started looking at things closer,
Sure.
but everything was still up in the air. We didn't know what to do.
They just started
'Cause what we,
making vehicles again.
yeah, because then we approved him 2 purchases and we had those bids. But we can't pay for them until we have them in our possession. I don't know the status on them here lately, but. I drove to Delaware or Manchester yesterday and got my back of the Tahoe loaded up with stuff for the election supplies that the National Guard sent.
Couldn't you got some from across the road here?
He can provide it to our, it's different scenarios on how they can
Okay,
provide
okay.
it, so I took what I could from the Secretary of State
Okay.
at no cost. Signed up for as much as I could. They're providing face shields, masks, gloves. I got gallon buckets of disinfectant, so I had to get some sprayers, nozzles.
How many absentee?
We're over the 3,000 already.
Over 3.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, so it's like,
How
I think
many?
I did the
That 3 return or 3 sent?
over 3,000 sent out. I'm gonna have to send out a reminder for those to get their ballots returned too.
Because that's
The
in
last,
it this week.
no, the last day I
Next week.
can accept the form to mail them out is Friday the 22nd.
Okay.
But we
that's
can
what I
still
thought.
accept them back by mail up till the day of the election. Or they can go to the poll and surrender the ballot if they didn't vote absentee and vote
Hello,
at
Scott.
the precinct, but there's still a lot that are out that we need to get back in.
Well, if you need some more masks, he's over here. I could slip over there and grab a box.
We should have enough to cover our election workers and our staff too, because we're wearing them as well if we go out and assist voters.
And he's
I got them already.
You already did?
For you, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I got some for the election workers yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So we should be covered between all of us now.
Well, I could cover your workers too out of that state stock if you needed to. They're not
If
public.
I were, yeah.
That's fine. Either
I
way.
took 2 full boxes from the state now, so.
Oh, that's right. You went and got. That's
Yesterday,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, they were doing that. That's right. What'd y'all get?
Bunch of gallon jugs of disinfectant,
Okay.
so that's downstairs, and then we have to dilute it.
Most
like,
people
pour
call it
in the little-
Everclear.
What'd you say?
Most people call it Everclear.
It's, yeah. We got those gloves that they can actually use the disinfectant on.
Oh.
I don't know
Watch
the
her,
difference.
might come up missing again.
We got face shields
Stress in the office.
and the masks, and then I purchased enough pins so every voter has their own pin. Doesn't have to retouch the same surfaces.
I got a box.
I know. I got a really good deal on some cheap ones, because then we can throw them in a box and we can disinfect them, and then they'll be good to use at a later date.
So I got all them from Easy Cog.
Yeah. I don't think I'll run low.
Scott, are you here for the 11 o'clock discussion
9:45.
Ben Bonner?
with Ben?
Yeah.
Okay,
I have some input.
okay.
That's all.
Floodplain. Floodplain.
Floodplain.
Yeah. And we pay flood insurance on that, so
We're part of why we're moving transportation out to
Yeah.
get them out of the floodplain.
I kind of agree on that. It seems that we won't have to pay that insurance amount anymore.
Well, Just short of tearing the place down though, what are we gonna do with it? Sell it?
Mhm.
Don't know if that's what the sheriff wants to hear.
What's that?
But, sell it.
Oh, buildings?
So we use it for storage, and then if it's
Well, that's the other reason. Sheriff and I have been talking. We didn't realize anything was going to be going on this fast. We together wouldn't mind having the brown building.
that's the one.
To
on
put
this
the two
side.
trailers.
Let's wait for 9:45.
Yeah, so.
Give Ben a chance to be here.
I don't know
Or call
if he's
us.
Is he
calling
coming?
in. I don't know if he's coming in person or calling.
Out of all the different courthouses around, has anybody gotten sick in the courthouse?
Not that I've heard of. Mm-mm.
Me either.
They were all pretty much closed to the public and doing what we're doing.
Mhm.
But still, there's a lot of chance for exposure. Not only in the courthouse, but outside the courthouse. I mean, they go get groceries, they do whatever outside the courthouse.
That's why we were filling out that survey the other day, because they were wanting to know if and what precautions we would take if we were to open up at June 1st. And that's kind of what Ron will fill you in on too, what we filled out.
Right.
But it doesn't sound like there's any jury trials or anything scheduled until middle of July.
I knew that the courts were shut down.
And I think I've only had a handful of people coming in to vote in person in the office. We've, done our best to keep them out or meet them at the door if they need to sign something. My summer school's already been postponed till November.
Really?
Yeah.
So it'll become a fall school.
Hi, Dana. Oh, here, let me send you the Zoom because I have two different ones. Because the one I sent you for the 11 o'clock, so let me forward you the other one. All right, then you can input or whatever. Okay, bye. Dana, she's not calling for this part. Did you look at that hazard mitigation stuff more? On what you want me to put on there?
The whole thing.
So do you remember how it was before? Because it's like all in different. Because every appendix is its own PDF. Did we have it listed? Because I couldn't find anything even on our shared folder for it to be linked to. Because I know.
This one was probably in a different version.
Because I had it when we were taking bids, it's just like a little summary proposal thing, but nothing.
Yeah, he just wants the current plan to be available for everybody to look
Okay.
at, since we're not gonna be having like 8 meetings face to
I'll try to
face.
talk to Ben today, but I think I'll put it under your emergency management page.
Yeah, I've already talked to Robert, because we didn't have it up on our webpage either. He's gonna be putting it up on ours.
Because I have it all on a CD right now, so if you need that too.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so that's kind of how I'm gonna do it. And
Have
then
we
just
taken that trailer off the food
do it in
pantry?
order. Maybe.
Yeah,
No.
since they're all separate. See, I thought they were all together.
Unless I take that booklet out. And
Don't know that
scan it.
that's,
I don't know how to, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll get to it, it's just
I don't know that that's a real good option, to be very honest with you.
I would think each PDF section though could just be put on.
Yeah, under a different link.
folder in the same place, and then they can just,
And if it's raining, they,
each one is
in my
titled.
opinion, they should open up the hallway.
Yeah.
Hey, Dana,
Depending
Dana
on-
on. Can you hear us, Dana?
Dana?
She might have hers on mute. She's on.
Okay. Are you on mute?
There, she shook her head.
No.
Because I'm watching you guys, but I can't talk.
Oh. I have that problem with Zoom on my computer. I have to actually dial in the number to get the audio. I can't do it on
Yeah,
the
unless
computer.
you're on a laptop, if you're on your
Yeah,
station, you
yeah.
can't.
Good morning, Ben.
Morning. How are you guys today?
Almost perfect here. How
Yeah.
about you fellers?
Same old stuff, different day.
lights working on a tractor yesterday night.
Quite a deal.
It always is with equipment.
Well, it shouldn't be able to blame it on the brine from the highways in the winter.
We had an engine go bad on a tractor, lost a bearing last fall. We limped through harvest, and then we were taking it home. We didn't make it. Then there wasn't engines around, so.
Well, I've got 9:45, Ben. You're up to bat.
Alrighty. So the first thing I had for you guys was, thought about this the other day, but you had appointed me to the IRVM committee in January, and since I am now back as the supervisor of that committee, I can no longer sit on it, as well as I will also not be a Benton County resident now.
Sure.
So that was kind of why we had chosen to go that route. So I will need to have you guys remove me from that committee today. And then I did a little searching around and seeing as
Haley,
Yeah?
I'm on now. I can hear you.
Okay.
Hello, Dana.
Hello.
Okay.
so I did a little searching around, and since my position was a public, we have kind of private and public positions on the committee. Since mine was public, I looked for another person in the public sector, and Zach Parmenter had volunteered to be on the committee, so I told him I would bring the application before you guys and see if you would be okay with appointing him to the committee to replace me.
I know Zach. Good man.
Yeah, and he definitely knows his stuff. I've worked with him for 3 months, and he does most of the spraying at conservation. So I think, like, experience-wise, he knows a lot about the native plants and spraying aspect of it. So I figured he'd be a pretty good fit, in that capacity anyway. And he said that he should be able to make all the meetings, which is always a challenge too. So, but.
Well, that's very good that you not only remind us that you need to be removed from that committee, but
Yeah.
then come forth with a replacement. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just crossed my mind the other day, and I thought, well, I mean, our committee is still big enough to where we haven't been able to meet yet, but once we do, I thought, well, that way everything's kind of settled and kind of.
Okay.
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Motion that is on both portions to remove Ben and to add Zach. Is that correct? Okay. All right. Motion by Gary and seconded by Tracy. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Very good.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Come back
It's up to you guys, unless you want to keep them, I can recycle them otherwise. Or, well,
I have
if I
to
should
keep one
shred
of
them.
them.
She's got one.
So,
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
cool.
Okay.
So the next thing I had on there was an idea that crossed my mind the other day, and I had kind of stopped and talked with Dana about a little bit, and then Rick as well. Rick had recommended that I come in and just talk with you guys about it, but with the county building a new transportation building, and as far as I'm aware, nobody's expressed a bunch of interest in moving into the transportation.
Gave some interest for some storage
Okay.
as well, but tell us about the equipment that you have that you would like to get.
Yeah, so right now we have a couple different things that we could use the storage space for. One is like our building, the original weed commission building at Secondary Roads is basically plumb full with equipment now. And we've had to keep some of our stuff outside. So like one of our tractors and the seed drill we used to do all of our, like some of our roadside planting with. we like to keep it inside just because water gets into all sorts of different stuff with it and causes havoc. That's the main thing that I'm looking to store right now. But since we are at capacity in our building and there's really no other storage at secondary roads, if we were to submit for another grant to say get a wood chipper down the road or some other new piece of equipment, I've kind of held off on doing some of that stuff just because we don't really have a place to put it at this time. So when I got thinking about it, I thought, well, if nobody was very interested in the transportation building, maybe that would be a good spot for some of my equipment, you know, considering that we were also, you know, talking about making my own department down the road too. And there is office space there that I don't know, again, if anybody's expressed interest in, but that would give us a little more space to have, you know, an office for myself and then my technician, and kind of move our file cabinets and stuff from that little dinky office we have in the weed commission area out there to where it's a little more easy to be utilized anyway. So my plan down the road was to, I don't know if have you guys ever seen the inside of the weed department building up there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. There's that
I've also
little
seen your office,
Oh yeah.
so-called
Yeah.
closet, yes.
So what I was thinking with that down the line was I'd like to get that desk and stuff pulled out of there eventually and just organize our parts and stuff into there, because we keep all the spray truck stuff in the building, and I thought that would be a good place to kind of organize it. That would allow me to kind of make that our parts room and then also have an office at the same time. So I did talk with Secondary Roads too. We just, which you guys are probably aware, purchased 3 new tractors and mowers to mow the roadsides, and those normally are stored outside too. Those units, I think Doug said, cost us $100,000 a piece. So given that little building in between kind of the main transportation building and the court or the jail there has taller bays, I talked with Doug that if nobody was interested in it, maybe we could look at storing those tractors in there too, just so they're not weathering so bad, you know, from sitting out for, you know, 75% of the year when they're not actually being utilized. So, but I just was kind of kicking around the idea now and kind of wanted to see what you guys thought of it. It's definitely something I would be interested in using if it's available. So.
Dana, you there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am.
All right. You basically have 2 buildings over there, is that correct?
Oh, I have the one that's hooked my office, and 3 stalls is hooked to the sheriff's end of the building, and then the separate brown building. Yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So the sheriff's department shares the one building currently, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
On the west end, they
Yep.
have 3 stalls, I think.
Correct. Okay. And then you got the brown building between your office space and the alley, correct?
Correct.
And that has a
Correct.
gravel floor in it?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Okay. Very good. All right. Scott, what were you thinking as far as storage for yourself?
Okay, so, and the sheriff said I can speak for him also, because we've been talking about this together. He's not interested in the transportation part.
The main
The
building.
main office and the 3 stalls that are utilized by transportation that's already connected to his building.
But he does intend to remain in
the west side.
west side.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
he just didn't want to expand. He has no, at this point, he doesn't see any reason to expand into it. If he did, he would say that he would drain the water and not heat it. It would be cold storage, even if he would use it, because he's not paying for heat.
Right.
So our biggest interest was in the brown building. Same reason, equipment storage, to try to get our 2 response trailers out of the weather and inside under cover. They don't have to be climate controlled, but it sure be nice to not have them sitting out in the weather. And then he's got some other things that are in his smaller garages that he's just storing that would move over into that brown building. I think there's a way to work through both of this, except for I would be derelict in my duties as the emergency manager if I didn't speak up about moving an office into that building, because that's part of the reason we're moving transportation out, because of the floodplain issue and the disruption that it takes to have to get them picked up and moved out, and then they're out of business, or we have to temporarily find them somewhere. Cold storage with equipment that can be moved in and out at a moment's notice, that's a perfect thing to utilize that space for. The landing an office in there again, we're right back to where we started. We're gonna have to pick up and move and find another place to office out of, and or if we don't do it fast enough, lose everything. Because as we found out in 2016, you can sandbag all you want around that building. It's not conducive to keeping the water out because of where it sits and how close some of the buildings are. It seeps under the ground behind the sandbag wall and you can't keep the water out. So that's my only point about office space, is I would hate to see an office move back in there. But storage of equipment that can be moved out, that's what it's built for.
Well, I can see, you know, and no offense to possibly selling, but we're currently using with the sheriff's office, I don't know where we'd take the sheriff's office storage to, other than build something else high and dry. But I can definitely see getting the mechanical items, no offense to your trailers either,
Yeah.
you know, under storage. You know, that stuff sitting out, as we all know, it gets corroded and rusted and gunked up, and so it makes good sense to utilize that for storage of especially mechanical items, you know, equipment. So office space, I do understand the concerns regarding the office space. It'd almost be better if there was a way to almost have a loft area for an office, so that if the waters did come up, it's got to get really high.
Yeah.
Before it's going to mess with your office.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Well, and that's what I knew too, that, you know,
Oh, sure.
going into it, my thought was to not, I don't want to put this, like, not have too much stuff in there, so if we did have to move, it was just like pick up a computer and go type deal.
Right.
But I do understand, you know, if it's not feasible from that aspect too, I was just more saw the opportunity,
I
and
think
if it
it's a
was
great
available,
opportunity.
you know.
Yeah.
So,
I think
but
there's probably a way to get around things. Now, if it gets, what was that, 22.8 or something like that, that's a lot of water. You know, and you really have to have a tall loft area for an office, obviously. But I'm sure one of those stalls could be utilized, you know, to elevate for the typical, you know.
Water's basically at the threshold of the door at 20.5 feet on the river gauge. So
20.5.
you can judge from there then, as far as, because I don't even know the height of that building exactly inside, as far as what a loft area is even capable that you can even stand up in once you're up in the loft. But regardless, that's 20.5 feet. The water's pretty much
Lapping
at
at the
floor
door.
level,
Okay.
and then you can measure from there.
Dana,
Yes, Rick.
are any of your garage spaces, how tall would you estimate the ceiling height?
Well, the doors, you mean, to get in
No, ma'am.
on the ceiling height? Oh, let me see here. A minute.
No, just a ballpark.
12 feet,
That was my guess.
maybe 12 feet tall.
Okay. So there is room for
There
you to
currently is
elevate.
a
You know.
Rick.
Yeah.
Above our office area now, there's like a crawl space. I mean, I just have storage up there. You know, if they lowered that and made it above the office space, then I don't know. Maybe they could have something up there. I don't know.
Okay. Well, it's something that could be looked at, so, okay, good, very good. Well, I personally think that, you know, if you could get in and have a look to see what could be done to keep everybody happy, I think it'd be a perfect situation myself, you know, but I definitely understand that what a pain in the backside it is to pack up and move. That's why we're moving her.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and like I said, that's what, when I was thinking about it, I'm like, okay, well, you know, I'm not going to be able to move, say, like if we were to utilize that, you know, I don't know what the county would use the office space for, I guess, otherwise it would just be stored, or, well, I suppose you couldn't even really storage. But, you know, if we would just have like a, you know, metal desk and a computer in there, and then if, you know, I don't know how big that loft is, if we could have like files and stuff up there where, you know, if there would be a way we could utilize it.
it could be looked at is the way I see it. And I should state, you know, for the record, we're not moving the transportation building, yes, to get her out of the floodplain, but we would not be doing this if we didn't have this from ECOG, because, you know, they're doing the grant, they're doing the building, basically, we've got the land.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if this didn't happen, she wouldn't be moving.
Yeah.
And, you know, so that, come hell or high water, she wouldn't be moving, you know.
Yeah.
Only high water.
Only
right?
high water she would be worried.
Okay, but, so, you know, I'm in favor of looking into it further.
Okay.
Gentlemen,
I'd say wait till we get that building done and her out, then start.
doesn't cost anything to look,
Yeah.
and it's not like he's gonna disrupt anything.
No, I know
and I
that.
wouldn't, you know, we were talking like July 2021 timeframe anyway for, you know, my stuff where, you know, at that point, you know, because what you say December is when that project had to be done or something.
Yeah.
So, and I'm in no rush.
Well,
I
you're
just
not gonna
thought-
be able to move in if she's there.
Yeah, exactly. So,
But-
I mean,
but
I probably
what's it-
wouldn't even be,
What's it hurt to walk through and look?
yeah.
I can't see any harm in that.
No, I don't either, but
How tall your trailers are?
8 feet.
I'm more than happy to let anybody in if they want to take a look and figure out a plan.
Okay, well, that's good to have department heads work
You got
together.
2 trailers.
Yeah. One's a 20.
How many
one's
bays
a
are on the north side of that building, other than the sheriff's
I
office?
think there's 3 bays on the north side, isn't that correct,
The
Dana?
transportation.
that you use?
Yes.
3.
I got 3 in with, it's hooked onto the office, and then 3 in the other building.
Alright.
So I got 6 stalls.
Now, you have chemicals out there on the west end of your building, Ben.
Mhm.
Would you basically be leaving them as is?
Yeah,
Okay.
we designed that when we renovated that building, we built that as a chemical room, so it actually has containment if we ever had
Correct.
a major spill. So that stuff would all stay, same with the spray trucks, you know, we tied that all together in their storage tanks on the north side of the building so that it has enough capacity that if the thing caught on fire and it all leaked at once, it's sloped and drained into those tanks. So I don't know if it would be wise from an environmental standpoint to move them down there, just because if we get into the same situation, it's
Well, I
gonna
think
be
that
dumped
chemical
all over
room
the-
is ideal where it's at.
Yeah, so, yeah, this would just be like, for now, and that's what I was getting at, is that like, we got storage for most of our equipment at secondary roads now anyway. So if we really only need 1 stall at the moment to get our tractor and seed drill in, there would be 2 bays open that, you know, I'm sure the doors are high enough on the north side.
Oh,
that we might be able to get the trailers in too.
I'm sure they are.
If
However-
secondary roads was gonna use like that other building to store tractors, you know what I mean?
And $300,000 worth of tractors is much more
Yeah,
in need of storage than,
well, and it
trailers.
does wear on that stuff over time, which you guys fully probably know. I mean, the red tractor, the case tractors we got now look like they're 60 years old from
Sitting out
outside,
in
and
the-
they're really not that old, you know.
Okay.
So, but
Well, do you have any issues with him looking it over?
No, none whatsoever.
do you guys want me to just wait and come back in like, you know, November, December or something? Or
I think you should
January?
look it over while Dana's in there.
Okay.
She can give you a lot of information, a lot of pointers, come up with a plan as to how you would have an elevated office area
Okay.
or a minimal, ground floor, which doesn't make a lot of sense because you probably want to be in there more permanent,
Yeah.
and I doubt you want to be crawling up on top of the office to go through boxes for your files.
Yeah.
So, you need to come up with a little bit of a plan.
Okay.
So even if it's take the current ceiling out of the office and have it elevated with a different entrance.
Okay.
Come up with something.
Yeah.
So you'll have some time. And then as we get her moved out and it's vacated, then you'd be able to go in, figure it into your budget, what
Okay.
it's going to cost to do
Yeah,
an
and
office
that's the main
space,
reason I
etc.
was asking too, is
So-
that if I, when I'm coming up with a budget to present to you guys, then I can figure in, okay, if we did heat it, here's what the cost is gonna be. Stuff.
Sure,
So,
Well, hopefully you'd have a heated office
yeah.
and air conditioned. Okay.
I've had it both ways in the past. So.
But I think if you had it elevated, that would keep, Scott happy, and
Yeah.
avoid having to midnight move out.
Yeah.
So
Well, and maybe there's a way we could design it to where too, it wouldn't, material wise too, that it wouldn't be as
utilize
impacted
what you
by
sure.
flooding or flood waters and stuff too. So. Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Something to think, yeah, give me something to think about, so.
Sure does. Yeah. Anything else for him, gentlemen? Okay.
We started
Scott?
spraying today, so if you guys.
Today?
No, I just, hopefully the sheriff and I and Ben will all work together. There might be capability to get all of our stuff in.
That'd be nice.
And I understand priorities. I get it. My trailers have been out. I just had to replace the tires last year. I had 100 miles on them, but they rotted off. And
They'll do that sitting on
I know.
concrete too.
Yeah, I know. Well, but sun helps. I mean,
Sun rot, yeah, of course.
and the other part about the trailers, I got 3 generators in those trailers, and we do a monthly generator test. And every once in a while, it's just kind of nice to, especially in the winter, that instead of trudging through the snow and pulling them out in the snow, it'd be nice if they were inside. So I'm being selfish with that comment.
All depends on whether or not you can get to them without having to pull the trailer out.
Yeah.
But too, I mean, to your point, I mean, if I, right now, we really only need probably one bay.
Yeah,
so
the
I
plan
mean,
for the future.
Yeah.
I mean, if the things that you brought up and that you have right now, and possibly in the future other equipment you're going to get, plan for it.
Yeah.
And
But, well, and
then they get the decision of, all right, what's the priority? And they make the decision, and we all live with it. It's
Well,
not
this
a big
is-
deal.
This is something the 3 departments can
yeah,
kinda
and that's what I mean.
work
Like,
together on.
but I'm not gonna tell you like, hey, I got these open bays, and no, you can't have, what I mean? So if we, the only thing I was thinking is like down the road, if we choose to buy a chipper and I gotta have room for it, well then maybe we have to make room in a bay.
Well, if you're renting one now for $3,500, $4,000, it would make sense to
Yeah,
do a grant.
in a few
So-
years, we'd have it paid for, and
Right.
we'd have a little bit of maintenance on it, but it also
Right.
opens up a huge amount of work that we can get done instead of having to drive to Cedar Rapids, get it for a few
Right.
days, run it back, it's kind of,
Exactly.
so.
And again, my biggest concern is the office space.
Yep.
Elevated, yeah, all that. We're paying flood insurance on the building anyway. I don't know that having an office in it makes that much of a difference. I don't know. We'd have to find that out. But the other thing to keep in mind is we're on the wet side of the HESCO barriers that the city puts up. That street closes
Yeah,
as soon as they put them up, and there's no public access. In fact, it's
yeah,
once the water's there, there is no access.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
just keep that in mind, because it's longer than just one day of a flood crest. It's
Yeah.
usually a week.
Yeah, exactly. So,
It'd be nothing different than what we're currently going through, other than the fact that if he can find a way to elevate the office space. So,
Absolutely.
but the benefit to us, in like my program too, is like in the spring and summertime, you know, most of the time we're not in the office too. So like, you know, we're more field based most of the time. So I mean, if there was a time where we couldn't utilize it, it probably isn't as impactful for me as it would be Dana or, you know, other places too. So it is something we'll have to, you know, potentially work around if it can work out. But
well, you got our thoughts.
okay, yeah,
Okay, great.
I will check it out then. And
Thanks, gentlemen, for coming in. Dana, did you have any other input?
No, I'll visit with them when they stop over. I think it's a good idea to use it however you can for the county. I mean, so
Okay, very good.
whatever they want. Work.
All right. Thank you, Dana. Sounds good.
cool.
All right,
Thanks, guys.
thank you.
Yeah, like I said, we did put out a post today too, but we did start roadside spraying, and it's been kind of hit or miss on how the wind's working, but we'll probably be rocking and rolling out with that. So if you see anything or hear anything, let me know. There's always stuff to be heard. So, but
We put out some grapes that are about 35, 40 rows from the road.
oh, okay.
That's probably not a problem, is it?
Shouldn't be. We're normally not spraying on days where we have issues with the chemicals volatilizing, but yeah, we're pretty good about keeping it like right in the right of way, you know, and not getting off target movement and stuff. So yeah, if
There's corn in between them and beans.
yeah, I would think you'd be, I want to say mostly safe on that, but if you want to show me sometime where they're at too, I can, you know, because that'd be Bruce's territory, and I can let him know too. So we've had a few people calling about vineyards and stuff. So there's more around than you'd think too, and it's kind of surprising.
Well, I guess I'm not that awful concerned if you're spraying and there's beans in between,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Thank you. And thank you, Scott.
Thanks, appreciate it.
And you didn't need anything else on this, right, Haley, for the committee?
Nope, I'll get it changed on our directory.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
And then
Thank you.
will you be back in to approve your hires, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. It's the jobs close the 25th, or the applications close the 25th, and I was planning on starting people hopefully on the 1st of June is my
Okay.
plan. So once I get, you know, the close, I'll come in. I think that's a Monday, so I'll probably know somewhat by then. You know, how
Okay,
many
just remind,
applications
yeah,
we've
let me
got.
know so I don't forget to put it on there.
For
Okay.
Tuesday, the 26th.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's probably when I'll try to come in and, you
You're
know,
gonna start them on first. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So,
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Judy, can you hear us okay?
Yes,
Okay.
can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Good morning, Judy.
Hi, how are you guys?
I'm well. How about you fellas?
Present.
Okay.
Only I can see you. I see your kitty.
Oh, well, I could lean over, I guess. Oh, there she is.
I don't even know if I have my camera on.
That's fine. Okay. Well, Judy, you've got the floor.
Okay. You all have your handouts in front of you?
I do, yes. Tracy does. Gary?
Yep.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I got it. Okay. So the first thing we're going to look at is that cover letter that went to Rick Freeman. And Rick is, as you know, the appointed trustee for Benton County for Heartland. And this letter is similar to what you get every year. It reminds you that this is an estimate, and any exposures that changed in April and through may not be on here. If you changed your values on your courthouse and the service center, those are on here. But if there was any other changes that Jennifer hadn't gotten done, which she gave you these schedules April 1st, those will show up on your invoices. But the two big ones, we got the property changes in on that. So your invoice that'll be sent in June 15th will be as what your exposures were as of May 31st. So if you would happen to get a new car on the 7th, we'll add it to the schedule, but it won't be added to your invoice, and you won't start paying for that until the next year.
Okay.
Now, as we've done for years, the Cardinal Board.
I'm sorry. My apologies.
That's okay, you just scared the cat. Anyway, the Heartland Board approved premium credit this year of $350,000. So that's $50,000 more than last year. And how they do that is we analyze the surplus and where the board would like it to be. We always run it past our auditors to make sure they're okay with where the surplus is. And so that's why the premium credit went up a little bit this year. So your premium credit this year is $41,598. And that compares to last year's premium credit that was $34,425. So you're up about $7,000 on your premium credit. And then you've got some special acceptances there. You've got Better Tomorrows, 911, the landfill, emergency management. When we add up those premium credits, it comes to a little bit over $2,000 in premium credit. Any questions on the premium credit?
What page was that?
Very, you got your
first cover page.
very cover letter here.
It
Shows
says it in there?
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
See your credits here.
Got it,
41.
got it. Yep.
Okay. Yep.
Is the $2,000 included in the 41, or is that additional?
That's additional.
That's additional. What the board did this year is they approved $12,500 to be allocated out to the special acceptances. And so that's what all of their share came to, that total of $2,086.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So then your next handout there is all the page with all the numbers. And what we do there is compare where your premium is today versus last year. And it also compares your exposures, so your property values and that type of thing. So the first thing we're going to talk about is your property coverage. And you can see that's up almost 17%. And you did change some values. Your courthouse went up by $2 million, and the service center went up. I don't remember how much that was, but it went up sizably because it was undervalued. And so that's why you're seeing change there. In Heartland itself, other than the workers' compensation numbers, all the premiums have stayed the same for the last 17 years. Workers' compensation, we use the rates that we get from the state of Iowa, but otherwise all the rates have stayed the same. Now, to give you some background on the property premium this year, again, rates didn't change. The reason why yours went up was your exposures went up, but we got a 30% increase from the property reinsurer this year. The market's changing, it's hardening out there with all the weird things going on. Plus, our experience in the last 8 years has not been good. We've had 2 fires, 2 big hailstorms, and a big windstorm. So when we add all that up together, Genesis has not been happy with where their loss ratio is. So the beauty of the pool, and you've been in this pool since July of 1987, is that's why you as the board, they decide what the surplus should be. And so we had some cushion in there. So what the pool did, the board decided to do, was they absorbed that 30% increase that we got from the reinsurer. So that didn't affect you at all. And we had budgeted that. We expected that we were going to see that kind of an increase. And that was one where the crystal ball worked this time, because that's what I budgeted for, was 30%. That's what we got. So no deductible changes on that, no retention changes, but we did get that increase, and the pool absorbed that. So as Benton County, you are not paying an increase in your property because of that. Inland Marine, that's your equipment. That's up just a little bit. Your value went up less than 1% there. Equipment breakdown coverage, that's what we used to call boiler and machinery. That's up just a little bit, and the primary reason for that is because your property coverage or your exposure went up on your property. Now your errors and omissions, that is, some people call that public officials. That's the coverage that speaks to employment practices issues, also speaks to things like open records, open meetings, those kinds of things that have to do with the board. That's up a little bit because you reported 5 more employees than you had last year. Because that is based on the number of employees you have. Township coverage is the same. That's the liability coverage that speaks to your township trustees and clerks. And then your law enforcement, you're up 2 1/4 employees. And how we figure that is your full-time people are 1 person. Any of your reserves or part-time people that work more than 35 hours a month are considered a half a person. And then if you any of those part-time people or reserves that work less than 35 hours a month, they're considered a quarter. So last year at this time you had 48.5. This year you've got 50 3/4. General liability is up about 5%. And if you remember our discussion last year, this is our 3rd year we are averaging your expenditures over the last 6 years. And we throw out the high year, we throw out the low year. And what we're trying to do is keep everybody kind of more on a straight line. We were seeing so many spikes and dips that it was hard for your auditors to budget for it. So we averaged 6 years, throw out the high, throw out the low, and then the board also approved that no one would get higher than a 5% increase. So because your average was even higher than 5%, the increase stopped at 5%. Again, rates didn't change. It's just that your net expenditures went up. Auto liability is down just a little bit. Auto physical damage is up just a little bit. You're down 1 car, but some of the values changed on some of the other cars where you might have traded in and out. And so that's why the auto physical damage went up, because that's based upon value. The auto liability is based upon what the car is. The crime coverage, that's not your employee fidelity coverage. That would be coverage for any of those offices that might have cash in them. And if somebody would come in and steal the cash, then you've got coverage there. Your employee fidelity coverage, I believe you buy locally, daily, through a local broker.
Yep, our bonds.
Okay. And then the next one is your workers' compensation. There you see you almost got an 8% decrease. And we'll talk about that. That's based on your mod factor way down below there. You can see your mod factor went down by 15%. So the differences in work comp this year is the rates went down by about 10%. Obviously your payroll went up about 9%. And then all that was offset by your mod factor going from a 1.06 to a 0.90. And I'll take you through that calculation in just a minute. And then the special vehicle equipment, that's the coverage. Sorry, I have to clear out. The special vehicle equipment would be the coverage that speaks to all of the electronics in the sheriff's cars. So rather than if there's a replacement because they're in a car accident or in a storm, something like that, then that coverage replaces it on replacement value. So you can take the old one that's ruined and replace it with something brand new rather than actual cash value. And then the cyber liability, you can see you're up just a little bit there. That also needs some explanations. We've had our share of claims over the last year. And so when we asked Gallagher to market this, because we're a public entity, because we have some claims in our history, we didn't get anybody else to quote against it besides the current carrier. So we saw a pretty good increase on the cyber liability premium, as well as the board decided they wanted to go to a $2 million liability limit instead of a $1 million liability limit. So marketplace experience and then increasing the limits gave us a pretty good increase on the cyber premium. And again, the board talked about it. We looked at the surplus. We looked at what had been budgeted in January versus where our costs and expenses were coming in. And the board decided that they would absorb that increase. So your cyber liability calculation is pretty close to what it was calculated at last year. 50% of the calculation is equal for all 10 counties. The other 50% is based upon your employee count. So again, the increases for property and cyber were absorbed by the pool and not passed on. Again, that's the beauty of being in a pool. That's why you did this, because you wanted to isolate yourself from big market upturns and downturns, depending on what's going on out there. So if you look at your difference last year's premium to this year's premium, you're not at quite a 2% increase in your premium. Again, the share of that is going to be because of your property increase.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're currently at 7 million on your limits. Down there in the gray box also quoted you if you would like to go to higher limits. If you wanted to go from a 7 million to an $8 million liability limit, it's another 38, 34 in premium. 9 million is another 76, 74. If you wanted to go up to 10, that's 11,515. So that's up to you as a board. You haven't increased your limits for quite a while, but I would say if you look at the 10 members, the most of our people are in the $7 or $8 million range. We've got one that's higher at 10, and then we've got 2 or 3 that are lower. Do you have any questions about that at all?
No, thank you for asking though, or telling us where the other counties are on that liability. I was going to ask that question.
Yeah, we've got the one that's at the highest years and years ago, probably was before I got involved, so it's probably 2 or 3 or 4 years into the pool. Everyone had pretty low limits because the market was really hard back then, and they had an auto claim that was over their limits, so they had to pay out personally more than what the limits they had. And so my understanding, that's when they bounced theirs up to the maximum of 10. But I would say I think there's 6 members that are right in the $7 or $8 million limit.
So is
we've got one at 4, one at 5, one at 6.
Is there a maximum on that then?
10 million is the highest.
I'm comfortable personally where we are. Gentlemen, any thoughts?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. All right. Onward.
The next sheet there is just, it allocates out the premium credit. Some counties use this, some counties don't. I just do it for everybody. So if they allocate their premiums out back to their departments, most everyone will then allocate the net premium back to their departments. And again, some counties will allocate it out to every department down to the last dollar. Other counties will do it maybe just for secondary roads. So it just depends on the history of what you do. But that's why we do that, just so you can see how that net premium affects all of the different coverages we have.
Haley just said that we divide it out amongst departments.
Okay.
Okay.
We take that and kind of break it down, kind of like when we did the budgeting portion.
Very good. All right.
I thought you did it. And like I said, we've got 2 counties that it goes out to every department. So they'll get down to people that are allocated for just a couple $100, but that's how they do it. So that, we can help them with that. So your next sheet there is a graph that shows you what your GL premium has been doing. So you can see where you were in 17, 18. You had just a steady, you were going up every year. And that was the year that we got then the board to approve going to the averaging. So we could take out those big spikes. So we get a gross budget from Haley's department. And then we net out capital expenditures. We net out secondary roads because their exposures are based on the number of miles of roads. We net out the health departments, and there's a couple of other things that come out of it. Those are primarily the big ones. So unfortunately, the way the old calculation worked, if you really cut secondary roads budget down, that made your net expenditures go up because you had less of a deduction. And years that you didn't have capital projects going on, again, made your net expenditures go up because you had less of a deduction. And my argument for years with Genesis, who's our insurer, has been, it's still the same operation from year to year, whether the secondary road goes up or down or capital. So it took us a while before they finally agreed to this. So the calculation they agreed to, again, was we take the prior 6 years, we throw out the high year, we throw out the low year, and we end up averaging 4 years. So we don't use the coming budget, we use the current 1920 budget that we got last year and use that going forward. And what this has allowed us to do, again, there's a cap of 5%. No one can have more than a 5% increase. And then it allows us, then in January, when your auditors are working on the budgets, it allows us, we know we're pretty close on work comp because by then I have the mod factors. And then this allows us to be exactly where we know you're going to be for general liability. And it takes so much guesswork out of the budgets. So to my knowledge, one, this has been good for the county. It's also been good for the auditors working on budgets because then they don't get one number in January. And then when we come and do this meeting in May, find out that that number spiked up by like $20,000. So it's been a win-win for us. Yeah, it means less money coming in on your Heartland premiums. But there again, that's where you wear two hats. You know, Rick's got his hat on for Heartland and he's got his hat on for Benton. And I think that the board was really good to decide on this because it really took the guesswork out of your budgeting. So any questions on that and how that affects your renewal?
No questions? Okay. You can't see them shake their heads.
Yeah.
Well, I feel bad. I was kind of thinking I wasn't going to be on camera, so I didn't really.
It's only me that can see you. Unless you want me to share your smiling face with everybody.
That's good. I don't know. And then you don't get to see the cat walking by.
I know, that was funny.
Yeah, well, I've got 4 of them. I don't know where the other 3 are. Because unfortunately, I can close the window to the office, or the door to the window, and they learn how to jump through the window to get into the office. So, anyway. All right, so then the next one there is your workers' compensation calculation. Again, the rates are based on what we get from the state. And we start out with the classification code, which you don't care about. You do look at the description. It tells you where your payrolls are allocated by job description. The only thing here is I do need to work with Nancy. We don't have any payroll for your bus drivers. And since you do have bus drivers, we'll work on that when we do the audit. But otherwise,
just since like March, since the closing of some of the transportation, right?
Okay.
I think.
Okay. We'll get that worked out. But I just thought if you noticed that there wasn't any in there for bus drivers, then
right.
We were going to work on that.
Okay.
So your payroll comes down to about 7.9 million. So we divide that each classification by 100, multiply it times the rate, and we come up with your estimated premium. And the reason why we say estimated premium is we audit this at the end of every policy year. So coming up in July, we'll audit the payrolls for the 1920 year. And sometimes Benton County gets a check back because the payrolls were maybe estimated a little too high. Sometimes Benton County has had to pay because maybe they weren't high enough. It's a big guessing game. Nancy and her folks are working on that like in February. And so, you don't know how much snow you're going to get the next year. All those things go into it. So I think they do a good job of doing those estimations for us. I will say for our budget, our work comp audit in July, you will see some money coming back. In the middle of the year last year, the state of Iowa realized there was a mistake on the rates. And so they gave us lower rates. And so the board decided rather than changing that mid-year, we would catch it up on audit. So you'll be able to see those calculations, Haley, when I send them out, how much of the audit is, from the rate change and how much of it's from payroll. So we come down to a gross premium of $269,412. We have a mod factor of 0.90, and we'll go through that calculation in a minute. So that means that takes 10% off your rate to $242,471. And then we've got premium discount up 30%. And keep in mind that, don't confuse that with your premium credit. This is something totally separate. So that takes your net premium down to $170,396. You started at $269,000. You brought it down about 10% because of your mod factor, which is based on your experience, and that's really a good thing. And then we run it through the premium discounts, and you get down to, again, $170,396. So it's a pretty good decrease for you there.
Especially starting at $269, yeah.
Almost $100,000.
Right. So,
Yeah.
and keep in mind, your mod factor is 10% of that. And when you go through that calculation, you can see how that affects you. And, that's a tribute to your department heads, especially secondary roads and law enforcement, because that's typically where we see the most claims, what they're doing to try to decrease those losses. Okay, the next page there, shows all those columns, and that just shows your MyPac history. So if you look where you come from, you look at your high was in 1718 at 1.20. Now you're down about 30%, down to 0.90. And you'll see what kind of money that saves for you when we go through the classification, or the calculation. So that's, and again, that's a tribute to your department heads for keeping your loss history down. Any questions about that one?
Nope. Questions, Gary?
Okay.
Nope. All right.
Okay. Then let's go through your mod analysis. So it's got a box in the right-hand side that says mod analysis. And we're going to take you through the 3 years that go into your mod factor. So we're not using the 1920 year. We use 1617, 1718, and 1819. And it's ModMaster that does the calculation for me. I have to put all the payroll information in, all the loss information in. But ModMaster tries to replicate what the NCCI does. And the NCCI is the group that figures mod factors for the private industry or people that are fully insured or partially self-insured. You as a pool, we don't report to them, so we have to come up with our own. So that's why I pay for ModMaster, so we can make sure that we're sticking close to where we've been. So we'll look at that page 1, and it's got your audited payrolls for 1617. And then column 5 is the actuarial calculation of where they expect your losses to be. And then if you move down to column 10, shows the claims data. So for 1617, you had losses of 14,239. So yay, applause for your folks there, because the actuaries expected you to have 99,748. So then we go down to the next year, the 1718 year, and you're expected to have losses of 100,350. 1718 wasn't a great year for you. You had 183,221. Now, if we were just taking this on a year-by-year basis, you certainly would not have a 0.90 for your mod factor. But we've got 3 years in there. So we had a great year in 1617. 1718 was not a good year. In fact, those losses have matured another probably $10,000 since we did these mod factors in January.
So it'll probably catch up to us eventually, though. With the minimum.
Yeah. So then we look at 1819, had another good year, 13,708, as compared to the expected losses of 108,113. And that's matured just a little bit. That's matured just a couple $1,000, but it's still relatively low. So I won't take you through that big calculation there with all the gray boxes and the black boxes. You can see in box 15, that's the number you're looking for, the mod factor of 0.90. So instead of looking at all those numbers and all those boxes, the next page is really what you're want to look at. On the right-hand side has your mod breakdown, and those numbers show the gross numbers, not the net with the premium credits from, premium discounts in it from Heartland. So your current mod, your gross premium is $242,471. If you were at a 1, meaning, that's where a lot of people strive to be because that's where the actuaries are kind of guessing you will be, then your gross premium would have been $269,412. Now, on a minimum mod of 0.67, meaning that's basically you have no losses, you'd be at 180,506. So what we're looking at as far as the controllable mod is the difference between where you are, the 0.90, and the minimum of 0.67, which is 23 points. 61,965 gross. You take about 30% off of that, then you're in the 40s. So the big thing to look at then is the next graph down, the actual versus expected losses by policy period. So your 1617 looks great. Your column on the left-hand side, which is green, a lot less than your expected losses, which is kind of a goldenrod color. 1718 was a tough year because you can see how much over you are. But what saves you was the low amount of losses on 16-17, the low amount of losses on the 18-19 year.
Mhm.
Now, when you look at this, and you know, it's nice to spend time on it, and that's what really affected your renewal this year as far as your work comp goes. But then I always kind of look at, okay, what are our losses for 19-20, and how's that going to affect us for next year? So unfortunately, you're going to lose that really good 16-17 year, and the 19-20 losses right now are right around $112,000. So your mod factor will go up next year. And keep in mind that 112, we call those premature losses because they're so new yet. Some of them may close lower than what Judy Hamaker has them reserved for. Some of them may close higher. Plus, we've got another 2 months. We've got all of May, or we've got May and June yet to come in. The numbers I looked at were at through the end of April because I don't have the end of May numbers yet. So I would suggest you put everybody in bubble wrap and see if we can go the rest of May and all of June without a loss.
Let's try to do that. We'll tell them that in our department head meeting.
Okay. Okay. Just tell them it's a new PPE.
Okay.
So anyway, good news that this year you're enjoying the .90. Not as good news as that next year you'll see that go up. And again, we'll be able to give you a fair warning when we do the pre-renewal in January.
I'm making myself a note right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Can
Sure.
Scott Hansen ask you a question, Judy?
I'm sorry?
We have a question in the room. Our EMA director's here.
Okay.
Hi, Judy. I just had a general question about when you say losses. So these are totally related to reportable accidents versus just being sick?
It's a work comp claim.
Okay, so it has to be a work comp claim.
Yeah.
All right. Very good.
Yep. Now, work comp, applies to injuries or illness that occur out of the performance of your job. So, I don't believe yours had any illnesses in there. We don't see that often, but I have seen them in the past. But in these, I would believe those are probably all injuries.
Show the chart.
And Scott, I'll have your renewal done. I mean, it's done, but I didn't want to send it to you this early with the invoice, and it's pretty comparable to where you were last year.
That sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, you're within just a few dollars of where you were last year, and it has to do with the premium credit allocation. Otherwise, the gross is the same.
Okay. Excellent. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, any other questions?
No other questions?
Okay, then your last handout there, just give you an idea of what's going on with your claims count throughout the county. There was, there from July 1st, 2015 to the date April 23rd is when CRS gave me the lost information. So that first chart there is a pie chart, and that shows you where most of your claims are coming from. And you're like every other county, the majority of your claims come from workers' compensation. And then auto usually comes in second. And what drives the auto number of claims is the physical damage. Those deer hits, sliding on the ice and running into a pole, those kinds of things. And then GL, that would be all your liability claims. That not only be general liability, which would be like slip and falls, that would also include any law enforcement claims or claims that would be public officials. And then property is the last one there, that for everybody is the smallest. Again, it's claims count, not total incurred. That doesn't have to do with much.
I don't know who that was.
Did somebody have a question?
I don't know.
It was just the background. Somebody else called in, I think.
Okay, all right. Then your next one there is your claims count by department. And do want people to know we are not trying to pick on secondary roads or law enforcement. But, you know, those are two of your biggest departments. Now, I'm not sure why we've got, I'm looking at this, we've got Benton County Secondary Roads and Benton County Engineering. So I've got to look at your.
I saw that had two graphs.
I'm sorry?
I saw those two different graphs too.
Yeah, I've got to look back on that because I've looked at all these 100 times and all of a sudden it just hit me in the face. Didn't notice that. I'll look at that. I think it just has to do with how the claims are coded in.
Okay.
But if you, I mean, I'll take a look at that and see how we came up with that, and it might fix this graph once I look at that from CRS. So I apologize, I didn't catch that earlier.
But that's not gonna change any of the numbers, it just changes the graph.
Right. It's not gonna affect anything. In fact, none of the claims experience was pulled from this because we wanted to get 5 years. So I'll get that for you. If you look at it, I don't know why I didn't catch that before because I've looked all these, I feel like 100 times. So I will catch that and we'll get it included one for you. Again, the yellow is the workers' compensation, the orange is the liability claims, property is gray, and then blue is the auto. And again, what's driving the auto are the auto physical damage claims because we have so many gear hits and fender benders like that. The next graph there is your sum of total claim count by body
Good
part.
morning, this is Rick Bremer, Benton County Supervisor.
Sorry, Judy.
Okay.
Well, we will be talking about that here soon, and we'll take recommendation from health department, etc. But at this point, we've not made any decisions. Okay. Well, we have it scheduled on our agenda to discuss today. Okay? So, okay. All right. Very good. Well, bye-bye. Someone want to know if we're going to open the campgrounds. Okay. Sorry, Judy.
Oh, that's no problem at all. No problem. So the chart we're looking at is the 10 work comp losses by body part. And really for everybody, shoulders, knee, and back tend to be the ones that really stick out. And I think that's attributed to all of your folks. We've got almost 5 years of claim experience here. We've only had, if I look at, you've got lower back area, which is a tough one. You've got only 5 claims on that in 5 years. So I think those are the kind of positive things I look for. Shoulders, again, knees, backs, those are what we're usually seeing in secondary roads and even law enforcement. So the blue line there are the columns, are the number of claims, and then the orange skinny line is what those cost for you. And keep in mind, you've got a knee there for close to 160,000, and the reason why that didn't affect your mod factor is because that was before your 3 years of copy.
Okay.
And then I'm sorry?
Okay. Our, just for a heads up, we don't have colored pages. It's all black and white.
Okay.
I'm a cheapie.
Okay, so the skinny line that's black or sort of gray, that's your total incurred, so that's your dollar amount. And then the columns there in black or gray are the claims count.
Sure.
Okay, and then that last chart there, same thing, the top 10 work comp losses, causes of loss. So strain and overexertion is always the top one. Again, that's typically knees, shoulders, and back. And then for you, you had 14, and that's probably driving your cost there. And then falls, slips, and trips are another big one for you too. Again, the columns are the sum of the claim count over the last 5 years, and then the line going through there is the total incurred.
Okay.
Okay.
Questions on any of that, gentlemen?
None here.
Okay.
Okay, if you don't have any questions, I would like to, so Haley, you've got the confirmation of schedules and the authorization to bind. You don't have to move on that today or sign it today. I would like to have it by June 15th. So that's up to you whenever you want to have your motion and take care of that.
I have it covered on the agenda if they're ready to approve
Yep, are
it.
you gentlemen ready to approve binding coverage and confirmation of the schedules and exposures?
I have one question, the main one here.
Okay.
Judy?
Yes.
On the property schedule,
Yes.
got everything listed on the county. Who kind of updates the assessed value or the appraised value on some of these things? Is it up to us?
Well, the content is up to you, because we don't have any idea what kind of values they have on that. On the building values, we get an update from Gallagher Bassett every year, and then those are sent out. I believe this year we handed them out in December. And that is why you as the board decided to take your courthouse and your service center up, because you wanted to get your values closer to what Gallagher Bassett values them at. And what they do is they value all the buildings 50,000 and up, and then you as the board go through that and decide how you get, just, I'll give you an example, and maybe I've given this to you before, but we had a building in Decatur County, downtown on their main street, and with all the calculations that Gallagher Bassett did, because they use a program called Marshall Swift, it valued the building at like $700,000. And the Decatur board said, boy, if we could get that, we should sell that today. But what they valued at was like 150, because if a tornado came through or a fire came through, they knew they weren't going to rebuild it. I think, in fact, they were renting it out to someone. So they took the lower limit that they felt comfortable with, because they had some reasons for that. We don't always suggest you do that, because if you've got a building you know you're going to replace, we want to make sure that you have adequate coverage for that.
Okay, the buildings I have no problem with. It's the equipment. I'm going over the figures on what their value is. I guess my problem is, I've dealt with insurance companies before that when you have a problem, say you got it insured for $10,000, and then when you have the claim and they say, well, that thing is only worth $4,000 today's market. My question is, I guess, is basically, if something would happen, say, like some of the four-wheelers I noticed here at the conservation, they got Polaris 800 valued at almost $10,000.
Are you looking at the auto schedule right now?
Heartland Risk property schedule.
What page?
I don't even see a number on
Well, count back. First
There's
one,
a-
second one, third one.
it.
There's an
2,
item number to go
3.
back.
Okay, that'll tell you. 4. I'm on the 5th page.
Okay,
Okay. And we're gonna go down here. Number 29.
okay.
Okay. Now, I don't know if this is when it was, well, it can't be 6/12/17 when it was purchased, because it says it's a 2010 Polaris Ranger.
Okay.
Okay?
You're on the equipment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it could have been purchased at that time.
Don't we usually give her the purchase cost and stuff? Let me put that in there.
I guess my question is, like it says, they got it valued at $9,000. If it gets stolen, is that what we're gonna get paid, or are we gonna get paid for what it's actually worth?
Well, on the property coverage, and inland marine is under the property, so equipment is under the property. You have replacement cost coverage. On the auto coverage, you have actual cash value.
So it's a little different autos versus the other equipment.
Right, so if you lose that Polaris Ranger 800, you've got, because it's scheduled at $9,950, to replace it, you've got up to $9,950.
Okay.
Now,
With
some
an
counties-
annual premium of $56. Right.
So some counties will put the depreciated values on there. Some counties leave the purchase value on there. We kind of like to have them leave the purchase value on there, because your coverage is gonna only go up to the scheduled value.
Okay.
So if people are putting the on the cards, if you're putting the depreciated value on, then that's okay for that actual cash value. On the property minimum marine, we advise people to keep those values where they are so that we don't have an issue when we have to, if there's a loss, that you're not getting paid on the actual cash value versus replacement cost.
Okay. I guess that was my question, because like, when I start looking at some of the things that the secondary roads have, down the road, they'll be getting rid of some of these things, and I hope what they're gonna get rid of is, it brings what they got a value on them.
I
Yeah.
doubt it.
No, and we had, oh gosh, I don't remember what kind of piece of equipment it was out of one of the other counties, but they got too close to the ditch and they rolled it into the ditch and it pretty much totaled it. And their actual, what they had it scheduled for was way lower than what it was actually worth. So that's what we're reminding people, don't always expect that you're scheduling too much, because you want to make sure that we can adjudicate it so it's close, especially on the equipment and the property, so we can adjudicate it pretty close to your replacement cost.
That should be up to the department heads to keep a handle on
Yeah.
that.
Do they do that?
Do they?
They're supposed to look their schedules over, we provide it to them.
You heard her say they're
So Judy, if
supposed
they
to.
do renew that, I'll scan you their signed copies today.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, and then, Haley's department works with department heads. They see these a couple times a year. And, are able to look at them. Just a couple things we don't want to do. We know we've got tools that aren't scheduled on here. Those are just a part of contents of their building. But the bigger stuff we want to make sure is covered, so we make sure it's added on there.
Yeah.
But
We try to
again,
catch it when we inventory it, so.
Any other questions?
No,
Gary?
nothing with her.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the authorization to find the coverage as well as the schedule and exposures? Okay.
Second.
All right. Tracy made the motion to approve. Gary seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Judy, I'll get these signed and she'll get these off to you.
great, awesome. And then Haley, I'll get back to you and I'll get you a new chart that will figure out why CRS has those two classifications in there for the engineering or secondary roads.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Judy.
Thank you for being a part of Heartland.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Myron, are you still on?
I'm still here.
Okay, sorry, we ran a little late.
What's he got?
I think it was me that made that noise earlier while Judy was talking. I didn't mute the YouTube channel.
Oh, I figured it was you. I didn't want to call you out, but.
Okay. Well, go ahead there, Myron.
Real quick, request action, had advertised for the secondary road seasonal aid. Had got two applications. One of my applicants hasn't been getting back to me, so I'm wondering if that one isn't as interested or not. But I had the other one I've talked to twice this morning is still interested in doing the type of work that we were talking. So I'm recommending that Hannah Timmerman be hired as a secondary road seasonal aid.
Who is it? Hannah?
Hannah, yep.
Recommended, so I
Okay.
make a
And,
motion.
Do we need a salary?
yeah, how much an hour and when does that go into effect, Myron?
$13 an hour is what we advertised for, and starting this Thursday.
All right. Tracy made the motion to approve that hire, and Gary stepped out of the room, so I will second. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Anything else, Myron?
That's all I got.
Okay. I will ask. I I presume you scheduled additional pickups for the recycling in Sheldsburg, is that correct?
I think so. I'm trying to remember if that's,
Well, I think you did.
be better off to.
I got a big hearty thank you for that being taken
Okay.
care of. So, thank you for doing
Well,
that.
I know that, yeah, we were cleaning up around it, I think during that time frame, the end of April or whatever, it's early part of May, while this discussion was surfacing. I think we did have the provider with recycling containers make some extra trips. I didn't see at Republic's invoice for the month of April that on April 7th and April 28th, which coincides with the Sheldsburg pickup. I don't know how much exactly, but Republic did charge Benton County contamination fee for those 2 days.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. You're going to stay online here, aren't you, for the
I
discussion?
think you might have to call back in, because this.
I'm gonna hang-
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna hang up and call in on the other Zoom account that Haley sent me.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll hold on.
Yep,
All right, thanks.
yep.
Keeps all the background noises. Easier to do it that way, otherwise you have everybody sitting and waiting. And then you hear all that. Groundbreaking.
Like we didn't see section on the front of the
Oh,
paper.
yeah, they are pretty close, yeah, I did see
In yet?
that.
Next to the one says.
I didn't leave it out.
I like that.
He's been
I'm
around.
leaning.
Huh?
I'm leaning.
Well, yeah.
I'm leaning too. So far I got Mona and Karen on there.
Not brand new, only I
That
like
looked
it.
terrible.
It makes sense.
Too much white.
Don't do that. It was like, I don't know if it's supposed to be two puzzles or what.
Oh.
Yeah, and so we were right, like, I don't like this one.
Do you want a 3D one?
All right, Myron's back on too.
Okay.
Can you guys all hear us? There's Karen, Mona, and Myron.
Okay. Mona, can you hear us?
She might be on mute.
Back on the line, Haley.
Okay,
Okay.
yep,
This
I
is
got you.
Myron.
Yep. Karen?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Mona's on, we just can't hear her. Okay. Very good.
Dana's on.
Dana's there too. Good. All right. Well, let's start our discussion, shall we? I think it'd be prudent to start with any changes on the Benton County Health end of things. I understand you're going to have a meeting coming up here Thursday.
We are meeting on Thursday.
Scott and I meet with the director. Can I interrupt you just for a second? Somebody needs to mute their phone if they're not talking, because we're getting a lot of feedback and it's hard to hear in the room. Sorry for that.
There you go. Thank you. Okay. Go ahead, Barb.
I spoke to Katie Cox, the Director of Public Health, this morning. She said her recommendation for campgrounds would be to follow what the governor has put out about that, with the exception that she said that it would be a good idea for self-contained units, no bathrooms, showers, etc., open to the public. There's just some ideas thrown out about that. But the governor has opened up the campsites. Some provisions have been put on the CDC and the Iowa Department of Public Health site as far as how to open back up. They had some campgrounds that were allowing every other camper spot to be moved, that type of thing. They were screening their campers and not allowing the bathroom usage to reopen.
Karen, you sent us some information regarding campground openings, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And you had sort of a,
Now,
go ahead.
yes, no, go ahead, Rick.
Well, I was going to say, wasn't there sort of different levels with that, like level 1, etc.?
Yes, there was several different levels, and as of this morning, the state just announced that their public restrooms and shower houses will open on Friday, as well as their cabins. However, I'm not sure that we can go to that extreme yet, as we haven't opened yet, and right now we're running on a minimal staff. I feel we're ready to open the campgrounds themselves, but I'm not sure as far as the shower houses and the public restrooms. We do have our pit toilets open, and we are still going with the self-contained camping units, which would mean they'd have to have some sort of a restroom facility, whether it's in a tent or whether it's in their camper.
Okay. All right. And I think I wish I had printed that off, brought it with me, but I believe that was like a maximum of about 6 people per campsite, wasn't that correct?
Yes, a level 1, basically what it is open to self-contained units only. The same rules apply as the 14-day rules, and they would be all modern restroom and shower facilities remained closed. The campground, the campsite occupancy is limited to 6 people unless your household contains more than 6. No visitors would be allowed at your campsite, and all people are supposed to practice proper social distancing of 6 feet. As I mentioned, the pit toilets would remain open, but are not equipped with hand sanitizer or soap. People are supposed to bring their own. The shelters will all remain closed. The nature center will remain closed. The playgrounds will remain closed. And we are recommending at this time our cabins and yurts also remain closed. We have basically what I told you will be posted at all of our registration sites. We also have a sign that we have for the dump station, which will be open, which would encourage campers to wear vinyl nitrile gloves when using the dump station. They're encouraged to use a hand sanitizer or wash hands before and after using the dump station, and to please properly dispose of the used gloves in the dumpster that we provide, or to take them with them.
Okay. Just a question, maybe it's an idiotic question, but you get 2 families that normally chum together, and they're normally they go camping and they get together around the campfire, etc. How are you going to prevent or police that? I mean, that sounds like almost an impossible task.
It is somewhat impossible, and again, the campsite occupancy is limited to 6 people. If they have 6 people at a campsite and are socially distancing themselves of 6 feet or more, we do not have necessarily an issue with that. Again, we recommend that they stick to their own campsite. A lot of people get creative in how they do that. We also have that we will be enforcing this if it is posted, and if they're caught violating, we may remove them from the park with no refund. And again, we have signs posted everywhere, and kind of like the governor is saying, Iowa is full of great people,
and we trust that they're doing what we ask them to, but if they don't, we will ask them to leave and they will not be given a refund.
Okay. I just find it's going to be tough if you got two families, mother, father, and they've got 3 kids each, and the two parents, 2 groups, or the 4 adults are sitting around a campsite and 6 kids are running around. It's going to be pretty hard to control and or evict. So.
Right. We have, and currently our parks are open to hiking and fishing and kayaking, and we have seen a lot of groups come in and then they kind of merge into a group, and we have asked them as well, we have reminded them that even though they are friends and even though that our parks are open to hiking and fishing and kayaking and canoeing, we ask them to please practice social distancing, or at least wear a mask and proper hygiene. For the most part, we have not seen an issue with that.
Okay.
Our law enforcement officers do have the authority, and it was from the governor, and the state is doing it as well, that they can remove a person and they can initiate a fine, which would be our last choice, but we would remove them with no refund. And that came from the governor's office.
Okay. So it should be pointed out that currently anyone going into a park, a county park, has to walk in from the road if it's gated off. Isn't that correct?
Yes,
okay.
That is correct.
All
and
right.
That was basically since our parks opened years ago. When the gates were open, that meant the park was open to camping. When the gates were closed, people could still walk in and recreate in those parks. However, no camping was allowed.
Sure. Yeah. All right. It had been closed to the public until recently, where they were allowed to walk in. Isn't that correct?
They are allowed to walk in all winter long, and we had never closed our parks to walk-in traffic. As far as we did open our pit toilets, but we've been open all this time for walk-in, but not camping.
Okay. All right.
So who's camping up at Rogers Park?
No one. That is our campground post trailer that was winterized and left there for the winter. So no one is camping. No one is in the park.
Okay. Sorry to capitalize on the camping portion, but that's getting old boy, isn't it?
Yes.
I've had a lot of questions.
We are open to the recommendation. So we've got a lot of phone calls and Facebook messaging, and it's been crazy here. And again, we were following the recommendations of the County Board of Health, which we support their recommendations and your recommendations as well. Our staff is ready. However, we are following the recommendations of the County Board of Health.
Of course.
And what they feel.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, today's Tuesday, and a lot's going to happen between now and the end of the week, because there's a lot of county boards that don't meet till later in the week, and that's what happened last week. We kept everything closed, and as the week went on, more and more opened, and then I started getting phone calls.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think with Barb's report, basically with the County Board of Health, was that, the governor has authorized counties, and it's up to us, of course, to go ahead and open, and level 1 was the recommendation. Isn't that pretty much correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so my question is, if we did open up for level 1, are you going to open all the parks then, Karen? Would you, for the river parks, for example, where people can drive in and then go fishing, etc., even if they don't have campgrounds? And we've got
Right,
some of
so
those.
the only park right now that they cannot drive into and fish is Heffley Doolin. The boat ramp is on the closed side of the gate. All of our other boat ramps and parks are accessible for fishing, and even if they wanted to walk in at Heffley Doolin, they can walk right past the gate and the river is right there.
Well, I think,
So,
I believe Minneestima is
Go ahead.
also one of those that is closed off that you have to walk back for. Isn't that correct?
yeah, and Minneestima does not have a very accessible boat ramp anyway because of the shift of the river.
Right.
It created a huge sandbar, but yes, they would have to. We've had problems at Minneestima where we put up barricades and people still drive their ATVs and everything around it. And we've caught several individuals on a security camera and have written warnings for them.
Sure. Okay. All right.
So it's you know, like I said, and I admit too, if you were to hold off on your decision today based on the County Board of Health meeting on, what is it, Thursday or Friday, but have another meeting, I mean, the nice thing out of this is that it shows a great deal of support for our campgrounds with people wanting them open.
Right. Right. Okay. All right. Well, probably beat the camping thing to death by now. So
I got one question for her. Karen? Karen, this is Scott Hansen.
Yes, Scott.
So my biggest concern with opening up is your employees feeling safe, that they have what they need. I got your request from last week,
Right.
and I have that for
Yes.
your interns. I will bring that out today. Does that
Okay.
give you everything you need, you think, for getting you through the next week, opening up?
Yes, it is. Like I said, it's putting. What's happening now is we are short on our seasonal staff and we are short on a ranger. So we're putting extra stress on our two conservation technicians in that they are being asked to patrol the river parks plus everything else they're doing. But we were basically looking at 10 seasonal staff and we have 6. So we reposted to see if we could get 2 more seasonal staff on, which would help. But as far as COVID precautions, that will help a great deal, that we would have those supplies.
Okay, thanks.
I hope I didn't sound like the governor and avoid your direct question just now.
Nope,
So,
I got it.
okay. Other thoughts with going forward? We've got the court, basically all county facilities are closed to the public. And from last week's recommendation, it was until the Board of Health deemed otherwise. Isn't that correct, Sheriff?
We were speaking with
Nope.
and I may have misquoted, may not have known there was a difference. We have been meeting with the,
County Public Health Director.
there it is, the County Public Health Director and representatives from Virginia Gay.
Okay.
Not the board. of Health.
Not the board? Okay.
Different things.
It's 2 different things.
Didn't know that.
Obviously, I didn't either. So, yes. Somebody has a question?
Dana, I have wondered with the health thing, our trips are becoming we're becoming a lot more busier now that they've opened up dentists
Correct.
and elective surgery. And so I'm calling back more and more drivers. And as far as I know this is okay, correct? With you?
I believe so.
There? Okay.
And they have
All right.
the proper PPE items
That's what I didn't know.
Yes, they have masks and clients or passengers have masks.
Okay, that was my next question. Okay, good. So hand sanitizer available or whatever, I presume.
Hand sanitizer and gloves are all in all the buses,
Okay.
available for anyone to use.
So do you,
Wipe down the bus.
that was my other question. Okay, good. All right.
Yeah. I
Okay.
just want to make sure that it was okay to, things are starting to open up here on our end. We're getting a little bit busier as things start to open up, so
Of
we're
course,
gonna start calling back
All right.
drivers.
David, would you care to comment regarding the courts and what's happening with them?
I'd like to take my 5 minutes of time and cede that to Barb Greenway.
I see, yeah.
As I leave the room, keep folks safe for that, though. We're still on hold as of right now. We're doing everything essentially by phone. And the earliest you can have a jury trial under current Supreme Court order is July 13th. So I don't see us, the last meeting you folks talked about staying closed. I think you ended up saying until further notice, but at least until June 1st. I don't think we're going to be open on June 1st. Unless some new order comes down the pike.
As far as
The court system being
the
open
court
to the
systems.
public, where the
Okay.
judges are coming out and the people are coming in. And
So is our total caseload going down now? Or is it level, or where is that?
for the courts,
No, for the coronavirus.
coronavirus, I guess I don't know the
It
current.
only grew one, didn't it? From last week to this week, correct?
36, I believe.
Yes.
Still
It was
36.
35 last week.
Yes.
It only grew-
36,
Yes.
still one death, and as of, we didn't get a good lead number yesterday, if there is one, but we still had 20 recovered.
Well, that's as far as Benton County.
Yep.
Yes.
But again,
Right.
once we start opening up, whether it's campgrounds, courthouse, etc.,
And we have Lane County people hounding us about driver's license.
of course, yeah.
And that's the scary part.
Well-
We don't,
And it's my
We don't
understanding
want
that you cannot, limit who comes.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I can, because we're gonna do appointment only. When we take appointments, we always look everybody up, and the DOT supervisor told me it's not that I'm turning them away. I can just tell them, we can put them further out in the schedule. It doesn't, and they don't like it, they won't have to wait for it. Plus, they can go online right now. The state's opened up. People can get 6-month extensions on their driver's licenses. Trial for 6 months. So that's helping with that.
But they have to do that online.
Yeah, and if they call, I can go out and help them. I can go out and do it and enter it. Because I've done that for a couple
So
already
you-
as guinea pigs because I wanted to see how the system works. So
You do that for in-county residents only, or you do that for anybody?
anybody can get an extension.
What's Lynn County's closed?
Their driver's license is open.
Okay, so maybe I'm missing something. What's the great influx from Lynn County that you're expecting?
Well, this is how this goes down. Lynn County, you sit there and wait for an hour. Benton County, you get right in. So there's people driving out here.
And now they're all doing appointments, and Lynn County's booked up through June. So they think, oh, I'm just going to go to Benton. But we have a lot of Benton County people that need to get in and get renewed, and kids get their permits issued because they've been doing their testing online. So
When are you, I guess we haven't discussed that yet. Does the board have a date in mind for allowing appointments to be made and people to come in?
Well, I think the way it was left last week is, until further notice. And that we were going to discuss this on a weekly basis. And so, even if we stayed shut down at this point for this week, totally, next week we could actually change that to appointments. Or we could wait until the following week, however it may be. Maybe we are going to wait till the 1st of June. I think just throwing the doors open would be very careless of us. you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have to be by appointment, and those individuals should be questioned before coming in.
Was it Thursday, Haley?
Yeah, that
Last
judge said.
Thursday, we had a Zoom meeting with
Judge McFarland?
McPartland. And we had discussed that we wanted to run a couple weeks behind with things, and he thought that was prudent. They have a questionnaire they would like answered by tomorrow.
That was last Wednesday.
No, 20th.
Okay, there's two different ones.
Well, I guess it's 20th.
Okay, I have another one too.
Okay, good. You answer yours. One of the things was, courts opening up, their suggestion was to have a screener, and they suggested a nurse or an aide or somebody, to do the screening for people coming in. Of course, that would be kind of by the appointment only type thing.
And that was for the courts.
Yes.
However, you know, if we are opening up for appointments, and just to pick on Melinda because she's sitting next to you, you know, if she has someone coming in for an appointment, you know, I don't know that we could expect our security staff to screen those individuals that walk through the door. They've got enough.
You should do it on the phone when they make the appointment. Are you okay? You're no fever?
But
You haven't
then,
been
you
sick?
gotta
That's
worry
the
about
initial.
HIPAA violation too, that judge
Yeah.
said, because what are our rights to ask people those kind of questions too?
Well, I think in a public health emergency, you have the right to ask
Well,
someone
yeah.
as a condition.
Or like, because we questioned if we mandated
For
wearing a
entry
mask.
into the
and that
I
building.
mean,
kind of
they
stuff.
ask you this to get on a plane right now.
Well, it's not just a plane. It's I went to the clinic
You get,
and was
But-
asked.
I wouldn't
Sorry.
just ask them on the phone if you're gonna go to that.
And
Because
there's
what
a
are they
lot
gonna
of-
say? I've been running a fever for the last week.
Yeah.
They're gonna say my line.
Yeah.
Well,
common
okay,
sense.
but if she's, no, if I may, if she's scheduling appointments and they're a week out or
They can change
further into
between.
June, you know,
We're only planning maybe doing a week to two at the most in appointments at a time.
and so a
Just
week
because
or two
the
can
things
be quite a
change.
change.
are you thinking, and I'm just speaking out loud, on making your appointments like every 15 minutes?
No, we're trying to do 20,
Okay.
and then, we'll see. We're so busy with other stuff coming in too, so we kind of have a little bit of a schedule that this way it'll let us, some people work on other stuff. We'll do appointments, and then we have time to clean up, to sanitize in between. But there are a lot of counties that they don't know when they're gonna open either for the treasurer's offices, because I get a list of that too. And there's a few that aren't opening until the middle of June. They've already discussed that, so.
And there are questions, some are
I
mandating
think that's a
employees
better
wear
timeline.
masks or those coming in, but we talked to Scott, I don't think we can provide enough masks for the general public to have much.
So I have kind of a Dave quick question when you said appointments and stuff, because I know some,
Get
the only
prepared.
reason I'm here is actually because of your situation, because I know other counties that have really had some problems with their treasurer's office, so, I mean, the people coming in. So is there a way to have appointments limited to Benton County people? Because that, I know they were talking about that in Cass County, because they opened up and they had people from Polk County flooding them.
Yeah, the state says with our 28E agreement, whatever the agreement is.
Okay, I'm just asking the question.
They
They were trying to explore it because
That we can or we can't.
Cannot.
because they're literally open and they had a flood and they actually had masks and things for people to use, and the people just took them like they were Halloween or something like that.
Well, what I've heard from you,
Mm-hmm.
by the way, you're still the treasurer this week, right?
Mhm.
I just wanted to be sure. There's no harm in finding out.
Are you still our attorney this
Here
week?
you go, give him a shot.
Can I? Oh, really?
I want to move first.
You're gonna take out innocent bystanders.
I don't want to be one of them.
Maybe you have to take them, but there's nothing that says you have to take them in a certain order. So you can say, we're not gonna take folks from out of county until August 1st,
We told, we've been telling people when they call is we want it, our Benton County residents are our top priority, and those are the ones we want. They get the first priority of all our appointments, so.
But once you set an appointment, you're not gonna move them, reschedule.
If you're gonna allow folks to start coming in for appointments, I think they need to, there needs to be some screening, they need to have personal protective equipment.
We tell them we don't know what.
There needs to be a limit on how many folks are in the building at any given point in time.
You've also got the recorder's office who does the
They do passports.
passport
Yeah,
items and, so.
Have they been coming in for their passports, or is that closed too?
No, that, to my knowledge, that's all
Shut down
closed.
too, then?
I
So like,
don't even think you can go to Canada. I think
you
Canada's
can't, that's
closed.
shut down. But
I
like
haven't
a
tried.
boat license,
She's doing a phone and.
okay.
Or they can drop the payment off in the.
Just like our stuff.
We're gonna have to screen.
Right, Lexa, I think you were on.
It's gonna be back.
Do you wanna speak on that?
Lexa, are you on?
We're gonna have to screen them.
She was.
Probably muted.
Okay. Well, Sheriff, in visiting with the, I presume the clinic, maybe you have not, but would you find out what a screener would require? Is that gonna be a nurse?
The screening process they are using at the hospital, they are using like a nurse's aide in that area, and the cost of that is from $13, $15, $18 an hour.
So, but if this is a requirement for the courts, are they gonna help fund that? I mean, cause it wouldn't be on your department staff.
What part of the court are they funded right now?
Well, that's what I'm asking him, because he has his people, security officers getting paid out of his budget. So if they're requiring us to have additional
They've
screeners.
suggested it require.
Like courthouse security, who's funding that? It's not the
Well,
court system.
That's what my question is for the budgeting.
Well, and I understand that, and I'm just concerned that if we start opening for appointments, yes, you can ask that question, but if you're scheduling 1 to 2 weeks out, the day they show up, that question needs to be asked again.
And if we would do the screening, I would suggest we do it, we pay somebody 8 hours a day to do it.
Okay.
Because
And
we're gonna have people there, if they have set up times, I would not like, I do not want to see people sitting around in the rotunda areas waiting.
We plan on,
They should
One
come
in
in
the
that far.
door, when one goes out, one can come in.
Yeah, They should not get in that far.
we are gonna do, like some of the counties are calling people when they get done with, we get done with the appointment, we get everything sanitized, we'll call the person. They can't come in, they aren't coming into their courthouses until they're called and told them it's their time.
Just like for a doctor.
So that way nobody's waiting.
So leave the door locked and still have to allow
Yep.
them.
They'd still have to go through the regular security also.
It probably should be masked.
well, and that's requirement with the clinic, I know, is that you have a mask. All their people that come up now.
Should we have some
But
to
then like
offer
they
even?
can offer,
You're buying.
like
Yeah.
some stores turn around and offer them for $1. I
Yes.
don't know how
Well,
we're gonna.
Melinda, you're planning on just like 3 people an hour?
That's what I think.
Well, we
too.
have two people that issue driver's license, so,
Okay.
we think we're gonna do at least 4 to 5 an hour. This way there's a little break, cause we have our other work to try and do too. So on the driver's license side, the other side for motor vehicle, there's 3 girls over there, but we're not gonna do, 9 an hour.
That'll
We'll
also
probably
be
do
by
about,
appointment.
yeah, that'll be by appointment for a while over there too.
Because you still have to sanitize in between.
I guess a big question rolling around in my mind is, we open this up by appointment, are we talking for 30 days? Are we talking for the rest of the year? There's so much gray area out there.
Some treasurers are talking about motor vehicle, they eventually want to get away from the appointment, but a lot of the treasurers want to keep appointment only for a driver's license just because of how hectic it has
Well,
gotten.
I can
And that one's easier, yeah.
I can understand that, and that would be going forward, but not, I'm talking about the COVID-19 scenario. We really don't have a handle on that. So for budgeting, if we're trying to budget someone at $13 to $15 an hour for 8-hour days, 40 hours a week, how many weeks are we going to be doing that? Can we do that through the clinic, through the hospital, where they send their qualified people out?
That's where I've reached out to.
And then we reimburse them for that. You know,
I mean, if someone comes in and needs to vote, we have to get them up to Haley. You know, if we're gonna open the courthouse by appointment only, then we'll screen them, bring them in, and with nobody, you know, it's not gonna be the time to read the things on the wall and hang out for a while.
We try to encourage the curbside or just meeting them at the door.
Okay. Well, it's something that, you know, for the screener, I think this is going to be something that what department it comes out of, the big pocket is, it's coming out of Benton County pockets. So, you know, that's kind of the gist of it. So
I think through June, in the part-time budget in the courthouse, I believe there's ample money for that.
I have some in the security line item too, if I could get it moved around maybe.
Okay.
I can't amend anymore this year.
I think we ought to move slowly with opening. I really do.
I like the by appointment idea. See how that goes. Just like this whole thing, it's very fluid. It changes. We may have to change, you know, how we're doing it. Something we talked about a lot yesterday with the Director of Public Health. I got it right that time. Yes, you did. Was what's the new normal going to look like? And nobody seems to even have an idea yet.
well, I can see several things here, topics that we've got to address, and in looking at the whole thing, Sheriff, would you check into this further for a screener? Okay, knowing that at least through June and possibly a little longer, that we should have funding for that without doing anything too creative. Okay, and we don't know if it will go beyond that or not. I think today, as far as I can see, you know, we've talked about transportation, offices, you know, the county offices opening by appointments. We've talked about the courts not actually doing any trials until mid-July, something of that nature. And we've got the camping with the conservation. So am I missing anything? I think those are some of the topics that we've got to discuss, correct? Or make decisions on.
I'm all for letting the parks open up.
Okay, regarding the camping.
Yes.
You're,
as for the county
okay,
facilities.
If I may back up.
Okay.
Okay, you're in favor of opening the parks for camping at a level 1?
Correct.
Okay, I wanted to make sure. All right, very good. Now go on.
And then the other thing, keep the county properties as is, the way it's going right now.
Okay.
It's all right to go check in on the nurse. I'm not crazy about that. That's another expense. But I think, personally, things are going to start changing here in the next couple of weeks. I went to 3 different restaurants over the weekend. 2 of them says, we don't know why we're open. The people are so scared they're not coming out at all.
I had been to some restaurants, and some folks wore masks, you know, prior to getting their meal, obviously.
Right.
They didn't have zippers on the mask. So some folks had masks, some didn't, but there was the social distancing. The restaurants that I had gone to, you had your space, and they did it according to the rules. And most people were very grateful to be able to go in there. And yes, it seems kind of crazy if it's only a 25 25% capacity is, I think, where it started at. Restaurants can't make it on 25%.
No, they can't.
So, but it's a start.
Mhm.
And just like opening the courthouses, we're gonna have to start someplace, whether it's next week or the week after or 30 days from now. We're gonna have to start someplace, and we need to get our ducks in a row. And so with the sheriff checking into a screener, you know, again, I'm not comfortable picking on Melinda again, asking her people, you know, it's, you know, the questions, so, you know, have you had a fever, are you feeling ill, that kind of stuff. Okay, well, I got you set up for a week from Tuesday,
Mhm.
you know, and then they show up.
And then they
Yeah,
have
I think
fever.
that would make the health department director,
Yeah.
correct? I think it'd make their head spin. So,
Possibly.
Next week I will have a precinct election training too, but we're breaking it up.
so
I guess I don't see any point at this time in opening everything up. If the county parks, the people want to go there, I'd do one thing at a time at this time. I would not.
well, I don't think we're advocating, you know, throwing the gates open, you know, and anti-bar the door. I don't think we're doing that at all. You know, I was going through the points with camping, transportation. They're already stepping up that. The courts, knowing that it's not going to happen, you know, scheduling court dates until the middle of July, and we're not going to do anything yet with opening the other facilities, offices, etc., at this point in time, till we have more input and more recommendation from the board who meets on Thursday, correct? Now, we may wish to hold off on the camping thing until Thursday,
Friday.
excuse me, till after their meeting on Thursday for getting together Friday. After all, there's a 10:30 bid
Or we
letting
could post an
out
agenda
there. So,
Wednesday and have it Thursday mid-morning after their other meeting, and they can come and report right away.
so, you know, I don't have a problem holding off now and making a decision later in the week too. But if you don't think anything's going to change, we can make that decision now.
I don't foresee anything changing.
I don't either.
All right. So is there a motion on the camping to open the Benton County campgrounds to a level 1?
I'll make it.
Okay. Is there a second?
I think that we could maybe have some kind of questionnaire at the gate whenever they're camping, because it wouldn't.
Karen, are you still there?
I am still here.
Okay. Wasn't that part of your proposal that you would be, you know, asking, you're not going to let people in that are sick? Wouldn't think that'd
No.
be prudent. So are you?
We don't want to.
No. And they may get sick. Happens every time they drink too much beer, right? So.
No comment.
Yeah, I know. But are you questioning, and other than having the signage up for washing your hand or sanitizing, etc., when people register to
We
camp?
have, yes, those are all posted at all of the registrations. And like at Hannon, we have 2 sites to register. They're posted on both sides. We have signs on the restrooms, signs on the pit toilets.
Okay.
We
but
have,
if I may interrupt, the question was whether or not in that signage or question as they come in, have you been ill the past week or that type of thing? If so, don't come in.
we do not have that, but we could certainly add that.
I would think that would be a prudent thing to do.
I would too.
Okay. All right. You know, it only makes sense. Read this, and if you've been sick, please avoid coming in. I mean,
You've been recently tested for coronavirus and haven't got the results yet, because that's happened in different places too.
sure. Yeah. But
I've been tested.
All right. And gentlemen, I just want to ask, if you do pass this to open, are you allowing us to open like immediately or Friday morning?
Wednesday for me. On my motion, I'll say Wednesday this week, tomorrow.
All right. Karen, are you good with that? You can have things in place
Yes,
by
Wednesday
then?
morning. Yes, we've pretty much got everything ready. We're just waiting. So yes,
Okay.
we can have everything in place.
Including a wellness statement?
Yes.
Okay.
And that will be posted on our Facebook page and our website as well.
Yeah, what I would do is have them sign off whenever they,
Well, they
register
register.
to camp.
They register. If they register, then they're signing.
Right. If they're registering, they're signing that they're okay, because if we have them sign anything, then we're putting our employees in that close range contact. And by signing and filling out a registration, that is their signature that they've done what we've asked.
Okay.
We have no way to screen every camper that comes in, especially if there's a family of 6. We have no way of screening that family of 6. If you multiply that times 20 campers this weekend.
Sure. Other than your questionnaire, if you will.
Right.
Anyone in
And
your
what we
family?
pose.
Yes, or party been, yeah. Okay. All right. Does that work for you, Gary?
That part of it's fine. What about, these people are out there and they're gonna be, the kids are gonna be playing. Campers generally sit around a campfire, have a beer with other
We talked
people.
about that.
What's the difference of them in town? Drive around on a Friday night in a small town.
There isn't, but are we gonna try and police that there?
She had talked about that. And basically, they're going to try to keep the groups small. You know, if the children are running around, that's just going to happen.
What's level 2?
I don't know.
I can look it up, but it's less stringent.
Right.
Yeah, that's probably going to. Karen, would level 2 open up the public restrooms and playgrounds?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
Not necessarily the playground, but it would open up the restrooms.
All right. Are you going to perhaps put, I hate to say this, but yellow tape around the playground equipment or something of that nature to avoid people saying, oh, I didn't know?
Yes. All of our playgrounds are currently roped off with caution tapes and posted
Okay.
with signs.
All right.
That has been done since people started coming in.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to keep a 5-year-old out of that area, but the parents are responsible.
I realize that.
So.
I realize that. And we're asking this of the parents, just like the governor is asking this of the citizens of the state of Iowa. It's really no different.
Right.
And we will be at this level 1 for at least 2 weeks. We will address it again in 2 weeks.
And I would hope that would come up before changing to a level 2.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, based on recommendations of the County Board of Health and the supervisors, we are not going to just open up. But again, we'll see how these 2 weeks go, and we will, meet again with you and the Board of Health and see what you recommend, and with our input as well as what we're witnessing.
Next week, if we open tomorrow, it could be that the people aren't even sick yet a week from now.
Could be they're not sick a month from now.
Right. But
Until a month.
if in fact they're exposed,
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't even be sick a week from now.
Right. And I guess I'm not seeing what your point is.
Well, my point is, our caseload could go down for a week and then go back up.
Correct.
Sure. I expect it. As this state opens back up, our numbers are gonna go up. I don't care. As long as it doesn't overwhelm our healthcare system and it doesn't take our employees out of this courthouse and we do everything we can to infect them, protect them, I don't care.
It's gonna go.
County business is open. That's what we need to care about. And as people start coming back into this building, we need to make sure county business stays open and we don't take ourselves out of the equation. That's all I'm worried about. The general public can fare for themselves. They want to go camping and they're sick. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't either.
As long as it doesn't affect our employees, I don't care.
Yeah, and hopefully they don't go camping if they're sick.
Most
Now.
are being very prudent. That's why our numbers are 36 in Benton County.
And if they are, well, but this isn't gonna be just Benton
I
County
understand
residents
that.
camping.
But most of the outbreak, most of the big numbers in the other counties around us are specific outbreaks in facilities.
Correct.
So it's not rampant through the general population either. It's groups.
We've always kind of looked at the courthouse as being a long-term facility because everybody works closely together. If it gets in here, you could in fact shut the courthouse down because everybody's sick.
Right.
That's
Well,
I'll second it.
all right, there. Well, we got a motion by Tracy to go ahead and open the camping up to a level 1 effective tomorrow, Wednesday, which is the 20th, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And seconded by Gary. Any other questions?
Did you want to include that with the wellness statement at registration?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what Gary's recommendation was.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. And that's what Karen indicated she would do.
I'll put that in the motion that way.
You already have the sign made up.
Okay.
Get a wellness sign made up, you know. Yep. Okay. Very good. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Sounds like we passed.
And the rest
Okay,
of it
that part.
remains the same.
And then the rest of, I think we're all in agreement that everything else as far as county level remains the same at this time. Is that correct?
Correct.
And Sheriff, you will be getting some information.
So we,
And recommendation as far as perhaps, if, once we have the appointments, whether or not they should be masked coming in at their own expense. Because I don't think the county could afford to provide.
It was also asked in the questionnaire, could we supply all that? I cannot supply it from Scott Hansen.
This is a different question.
Emergency management.
Yeah, so, okay.
so are we comfortable waiting until next Tuesday for this discussion again? Not gonna have one this week.
Next Tuesday.
So for the next meeting, you've talked about your association. We've got our association. I know the Auditors Association. We should probably reach out and get examples from what other counties are doing.
That's what some of them are
So
having
that-
separate policies.
So
and
that then
such.
we can have it written as we move forward to open up, whether it's by appointment only or whatever. We have something in writing so everybody knows what the game plan is. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel because a lot of other counties
Yeah.
probably already have
I
documents.
think some of them are already sharing their tentative ones.
Gotta make it.
Is there any counties in the state of Iowa that have been affected at the courthouse?
Oh, yeah. Harrison was a
Harrison.
month and a half ago. Took them, treasurer took everybody out. No, I'm taking on you. But that was the truth. Their official statement was somebody came into the courthouse and happened to be the treasurer. And her husband was sick. She do that.
Other than the camping and the transportation.
That was one.
And everything other than that is remaining status quo.
But then, the foolish thing of Harrison, when they came back in, they required everybody to stay back in the courthouse, and you can't leave and you can't take anything home to work at home or do anything else. So they put all their eggs right back in one basket again. So, as far as I know, they survived that though. I just picked on
That's very good.
but it was, I wasn't picking on you actually, I was picking on the person.
Yeah, I'm gonna
It's like,
try
your
to keep it
husband's
on
sick,
since we
he's
have
been out of the
until-
state, and then you're still coming to work.
We've actually come in some courthouses that didn't even close to the public.
The
Yes.
department heads that called in on Zoom, do you have any questions?
Some of the, like the treasurer's offices, when they didn't.
I don't.
close The courthouse. They
And
closed
who is
their
that?
offices.
Is that Dana?
Mona, I finally got.
Oh, Mona, welcome.
Yeah, it finally let me unmute it, so.
Okay. Karen, you're good?
That's the kind of chaos was and stuff too, so.
Might be off.
She's putting signs up already.
I'm good.
Okay, Dana?
Do an appointment.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, Dana, you're there? Okay, you're good?
Yes, I'm here.
All right,
I'm good.
all right. Anyone else there? Myron, you still on?
Yeah, I'm still listening, Rick.
Okay, are you good with all this? Our decision? Okay, and I don't know if Lex is on yet or not. So, okay. Well, very good. Thank you, each and every one of you, for calling in.
We have, item number 10.
No, we
Talk to you guys
No,
next
we
week.
did 10.
We already did Myron.
Oh,
I'm sorry, what was that input?
You were stepped out,
Okay,
I think. Was he stepped out?
could have been.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not in any hurry to open, just.
Oh, no, you're gonna get,
So I think we've got all the agenda items done.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Any old business or reports yet? Okay, I would like to, I've already made a comment on the Shellsbury recycling. Scott, would you shut the door? Thank you. And the food pantry, I think that's something that will eventually work itself out. I do think that we need to maybe get some gutters looked at for proper drainage.
I can look at that.
Okay, all right. You'll take care of that.
Yeah.
And
Where is the gutters needed?
over the south door at the food pantry. Okay. And just as a thought, if I may, on our Zoom meetings, and I think this may be a thing of the future coming up, what are your thoughts about maybe, and this is a Ben question, is there a way we can maybe put a television up here so we can see who's on those meetings?
It has to do with the laptop, but not all of them. If the employees are at their desktop, but not the laptop, chances they're not gonna have the camera capability.
Okay.
When they're on the laptop.
I know that
But we-
for our juvenile detention, you know, as we did our Zoom meeting, it rotated to each and every individual. Looked like we had one that was kind of snoozing, but you know. But anyway, I don't think that's a bad idea.
But
I'd
then I
like
would
to
have
know.
to, it's off that laptop.
I get
So
that.
then I would have to display it somehow. I don't know, there's just, yeah, it would have to be.
Well, you're sitting here with it here. You can
Yeah.
see Judy. It'd be nice if Judy,
Well, we
see
talked about
her.
that, because if she wanted to, everybody to see her, I could have projected her on the projector.
Sure.
But we thought this was just fine.
Okay.
So,
It's just something I think would be,
if they request that ahead of time, I would have the projector ready to go.
Sure.
But if they don't want to,
what's this?
that's why I send the email out ahead of
all
time
right,
and stuff.
very good. Well, if that's it, is there a motion to adjourn?
So we're gonna sign this yet. Whole business.
Oh, okay.
That's a contract.
Oh, for those
Okay,
other
so
ones.
this is under old business. This is for, let's hold off on your motion. This was for the
Transportation.
insulation for the transportation building.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
It
we
just
approved
needs
that
a-
that day.
It just needs a signature. Okay,
All it does.
all right, very good.
Don't have to prove anything.
Okay, so now I can take your motion.
So move. Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
We'll go over there right away.